train take you now, girl? I know you got to go. Seen it coming, baby, just as plain as day. Seen it coming at me. No way you can stay. I know. I know. I know. I know. Don't have to tell me, baby. So you go on down the road now. You're gonna leave my sight. But I remember you, baby, each and every night. Don't have to tell me. You got to go.
Blood satellite.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, buddy. It sounds like we picked the right night for this, eh?
What's happening?
I'll tell you. Oh.
Sorry, I haven't been checking the news. I hope. Okay.
Well, nothing happened while the music has been playing. Yeah.
I said it before, I say it again. Israel is not going to stop Blood Satellite. It's a really jarring experience. scanning the notes I've got in front of me for the show. I don't have a lot planned, obviously, but I got a thing or two while this is going on in the background. What are we talking about? Let's see if we can pull this up here. This is an ongoing story. People can see, obviously. I mean, the chat's full of people talking about it. Even Evan here in the chat, first comment of the night, said Israel hit Tehran about half an hour ago. This is why I like recording our standalone shows. They're little capsules. Everything's siloed. It has nothing to do with the outside world. It's its own little contained universe. But you can't record live without talking about this.
No.
So I'm looking at the New York Times right now. This is their dedicated page to it. Here's the latest, they say. Explosions rocked Tehran early Friday morning. They're saying that as if it's not, as if that's fucking tomorrow. What are they fucking doing? Hey, can the fucking spare a Jew a clock or something or other?
They don't know anything, man.
The strikes raise fears of the long simmering conflict between the two countries that could escalate into a war involving the most powerful militaries in the Middle East. Yeah, it's like having the fucking tastiest pudding at the retardathon. You know what? I might, if this was recorded, I might edit that out, but that one's staying in,
you're
baby.
living with it. You're living
That
with
one's staying in, baby. So this is how I got dad brain, right? Sometimes things blur together. So I was talking to you before the show, saying, "Didn't this just happen? Weren't we sitting here, perhaps on a live stream, in fact, saying World War III is about to happen? All the it's not happening cells. We're getting curb stomped by the it's actually happening. Chads, you know, for the first time in memory, maybe a thing would happen
from Tehran. But it was a big. It's funny because people always say Tehran doesn't do anything, except for that one time where they did do something. Like how many missiles? Like thousands of missiles, just raining missiles all night. And then Israel didn't do anything. Israel,
that was it was flipped, and so that's why you correct me. I'm like, okay, so I guess it was leading up to this. Here's what they're saying. What Israel's saying, it's the same thing they've been saying every single time they've done something like this, is that Iran was on the razor's edge of developing nuclear weapons. That's what they're saying right here. Israeli military official briefings saying that there's been a secret program to assemble a nuclear weapon. You know, this was the rationale behind the Stuxnet virus. If anyone recalls that, it was one of the most deviously created viruses, computer viruses ever, with what they called a 0-day exploit, which meant that typically, and we discussed this on the show a long time ago, but for people who don't know, you install a virus on a computer and it reports back to whoever sent the virus, and they can tell what to do next. This operated as if it was its own little organism. You leave it in there, it doesn't report back, it doesn't send a signal out, it's just in there, and it goes and does what it needs to do. So you never know where it came from. And that's what happened when one of Iran's nuclear reactors was disabled. And it was a very, very pointed attack. It was just disabling this one machine within a larger machine that just caused not a meltdown, not a Chernobyl incident, but it handicapped the nuclear program. And then it's known, it was never confirmed, wink, wink, but everyone knows it was Israel that did it, because it wasn't just some hacker group that could develop something like this. It was staggeringly advanced at the time. Yeah. So it's just the same shit, to the point where you would say, like, okay, well, what are you really doing? Because they're also hitting apartment buildings with, see if I can find some photos here. There's all kinds of photos of the apartment buildings that were hit. It looks like they're targeted assassinations of individuals. We don't know who was in these buildings, but I don't think a nuke was in there. I don't think a nuke machine was in there. So maybe you're just maybe you're just killing indiscriminately. But it's not like Israel's known for that.
Though Israel has never killed indiscriminately. They are the world's most moral army.
My Israel?
Our Israel. You don't get to own Israel.
Our Israel? White people's Israel? They would never do something like that. I bet that would rile them up. So we're not going to stick on this story because it's developing. There's a lot of people who are collecting their thoughts. Everything we could possibly say would be speculative. So let's speculate. What do you think's going? Here's something that I found. I'm loving this. Let me just. I gotta zoom. Give me a second to zoom. Here we go. We're looking at one of the hosts of Stone Choir. Great fella. Woe to those who dwell upon the earth. He's got a series of takes here, a chain of takes that I really like. Here's Mark Trouble. I Stuxnet your mom all the time. I don't want to see people being rude in the chat. I don't want to see a bunch of flim flam
Love you,
up
Mark.
in here.
Thanks, buddy.
Caravaggio, digital parasites, so to speak. Did you catch that? There was a fucking. I had to check to make sure this was real. It was Ben Shapiro. The thumbnail for one of his latest episodes was the parasites trying to control the U.S. government, and he's looking at the camera, just like, And I'm like, I know what you're doing, right? You're saying it's Qataris, I'm sure, but really though, this means you're aware that everyone thinks that. Only Jews could use themselves as clickbait like that. you would never catch anyone else using, if they really believe that was a weapon wielded against them, as like a little wink and a tee to make a couple of fucking Doritos. Look, Mark Trouble again. Big feels evening. There's a lot of feelings going around. Sometimes my wife says that about our son. He gets big feelings. That's us tonight. MF's on the Jew app got advance notice. Evan is saying some smart ass things in here. What did he say? He says you could literally tell from the flows in the stock market that something was going to go down today or tomorrow. Sometimes I hear that and I think, well, that sounds like a bunch of tea leaves, but I don't really know. My thing is I love looking at graphs after a thing happens and say, aha.
That's the
I say,
one.
of course.
For sure.
Anyone could have seen it coming. What? Not me.
Yeah.
Never me. But someone did. I feel good knowing that someone's getting rich off of things. Not us.
As long as somebody, like, you don't feel as bad. Like, it'd be a tragedy if nobody got rich on it, right?
You got to understand, I love the feeling of buying at the top.
Yeah.
I love... I've in several times in my life bought Bitcoin at the worst possible time.
I may have lost my life savings, but somebody out there made a lot of money. And so the total amount of happiness in the world increased.
That guy never lived that comic down, by the way.
Did he go on a date with some girl and she recognized him and showed her friends and ran away or something?
Yeah, you're the bike faggot.
You're the bike faggot.
It's funny when if you're on a date with a girl and girls don't like call people faggots and don't say that. Like, you're such a lame that you made a girl go internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like a girl actually calling you a cunt. They don't do that to your face usually. Ran 6 million nanoseconds from nukes. Yep. So here we're looking at. Let's get to this. It starts off very funny. I love this guy. But when you start by saying, I've paid close attention to ballistic missile news for decades. I didn't.
I've been a regular listener to ballistic missile podcasts.
I thought he was joking. I'm like, oh yeah, that's
I love
a bit.
it. I love the tone of this. Like, you're autistic for ballistic missiles.
But then people hear me as like, I've been watching Pitmaster TV shows. Like, there's more than one. I'm like, yeah, what, you just watch one and be biased?
Genre.
Like, I'm just going to watch one guy on how to make pork belly. Are you fucking ludicrous?
Yeah.
Are you a black? One of the most important things you know about all such discussions is that nearly everyone talking is a Jew. They're professionals at this. And I know a lot of people, they perked up when they heard that. What's he talking about? The entire non-proliferation space has been ruled generationally by very competent Jewish experts. The reason is very simple. Non-proliferation, nuclear non-proliferation, as we know, is not about peacemaking. It's about permanently locking in the post-World War II international order with no more leaderboard changes, which always seemed obvious to me when we talk about no more nuclear proliferation, but no one really needs to get rid of the nukes if they have them.
Yeah.
And the Soviet Union and America would make these gestures of dismantling some, but it's only because they had a preposterous amount of nukes.
Way more
like-
than they needed. Yeah.
You could destroy the Earth 20 times, and now you can only destroy it 15 times. But
There's also a cost element to it, right? Because they cost a lot to maintain and to update. So you really want to have you're going to have them, but you're going to have the correct number of them, and you're going to pay to update them. So you either have them or you don't have them. And like I totally agree. The countries that have them, and they don't want anybody else to get them. But the countries that have them are never going to let go. It is bizarre, by the way, that Pakistan is on the list of 9 countries that has nuclear weapons, and nobody seems to fucking care. Like, how is Pakistan not more of a mad dog than Iran? I'm not a lover of Iran, but like Pakistan, come on.
Yeah. Pakistan just by accident could kick something off.
Yeah.
On one hand, it makes sense that the Jew is locking in its global victory over Christendom. But on the other hand, their overwhelming dominance is the discussion that one crucial knock-on effect. They ignore or actively lie about what the state of Israel is doing. And this is true because as far as I know, and I don't know if this is the case now, but everyone has known that Israel has nukes and they've just lied about it while also having an array of world-ending contingency plans, one of which I believe, like the Samson option, which is that if Israel is threatened seriously with destruction, it just destroys the whole world. Yeah. And that's just an accepted geopolitical consequence. Everyone knows that's on the table.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I don't think normies know. I think we've accepted how insane that is because we know Jews are psychotic. We can sleep with it. But I mean, a lot of people, I've mentioned that to people. Like, let's see, for somebody, I brought that up with some normie, and they were like, "That's not true." I'm like, "Look it up. It's true. Not everybody knows that."
The people who always say things that like that's not true, when they figure out that it is true, they never correct the mechanisms that made them disbelieve you in the first place.
Yeah.
So what we should say is, "Oh, you were wrong about that. You should trust me more now." Do you trust me more? No, you balanced out. You just see that as an aberration. And I think that's the difference between people like us, where if we learn something, oftentimes it makes us readdress our priors. Like you know what I mean? Like like if Donald Trump really lost to Kamala Harris, I'd be like, "What fuck? I gotta or Pierre Poilievre won over Mark Carney." I'd be like, "Damn, I gotta I need to shut up about politics for a while." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But these people don't correct. Anyway, the tagline of one of the best. This is still like this is where I figured out he wasn't joking. I just didn't know this was out there. The tagline of the best podcast on ballistic missiles is "Launch a missile, get a pod." There's an entire OSINT community that has sprung up about tracking and meticulously scrutinizing every launch to infer possible capability changes. I will say, if there's one thing that you probably should be, what you might say, autistic about, it should be this. You know what I mean? Like, if you claim to care about World War III, well, this is the shit you'd be watching. The missile news. I've never listened to missile news. What am I doing talking about World War III? For the past decade, that's been mostly about DPRK with some attention to India, Pakistan, and Iran. And it makes perfect sense, whether short, intermediate, or intercontinental range. I'm skipping here. The one country that never gets any public discussion is the state of Israel. They regularly conduct BM tests as well, and they're occasionally acknowledged, and they're never, ever analyzed. As a result, it's nearly impossible to get accurate public data on Israel's state-of-the-art ballistic missiles, to the point that when they conduct tests of clearly new variants with enhanced capabilities, none of the public listings will even give the new missile a name. By entirely controlling the public discussion of the entire subject of ballistic missiles, the Jew has permitted those who dwell where Satan's throne is to continue to enhance their nuclear first strike capability to the point that they can hit every Western capital. And if you scroll up here, here he says, Iran has no ICBMs, Israel does. This is the range, the Jericho 3A, known as ever asked why Israel needs to send its illegal nuclear warheads such distances. I mean, look at it in red here for those
the word
listening.
Jericho is right in the name.
They just like telling you that they want to blow up the fucking world. I think God might have known something about these people. You know, when he says that they're the chosen people, now what he meant was he was pointing to them and saying, look, they thought the finger above there was saying, no, these guys are special. No, they're remarkable. Everyone look at what they're doing. I'll once again plug one of the most important books you'll ever have to read, The Samson Option. Yep, well, the Samson Option by Seymour Hersh. So there we go. Maybe that's all we need to say on the topic, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. It's just if Iran is close to getting quote unquote nuclear weapons, I think the real story is that Israel is going to stop that, and they only care about Iran. However, I have nothing against Iran. It seems that they've gained a reputation of being able to be fucked with. And I don't know how I feel about that. I wish they didn't. But when I hear about, assassinating their generals and whatnot, nothing happens. Like Iran, like you said, Israel has hit Iran so many times over the years, and there's been nearly no consequence. And it seems to me that if we're expecting World War III, it would require that Iran actually, did a like boots on the ground invasion, and I don't think they will. You know what I mean? So everyone's saying it's happening. It's World War III. I'm like, well, that would require Iran to want to start World War III. And I don't see that happening.
No.
What do you think?
Absolutely. Actually, I mean, I have a million of these, but the way that people represent Iran in a conversation is one of the red flags I have for somebody being captured, because a lot of people, Jews or like those fucking guys, will say stuff on the one hand, oh, Iran is, did you know they're actually just part of the Islamic Caliphate? They're actually really radical and they just want to destroy Israel and they hate Christians and they're fucking crazy. Okay, cool. But at the same time, Iran's actually a bunch of pussies and they never fight back. What a bunch of retards. They don't even have enough missiles and they can't even, well, look at that, we're beating them up and they're not even doing anything. Like, it's one or the other. And I think the reality of it is Iran doesn't actually does Iran hate Israel and want them all to die? Yeah, so do we. But like, is Iran going to do it? No, not any more than Pakistan is, because at the end of the day, there are actually adults in the room. Maybe they're not the most rational people, but they're probably about equally as rational, sorry, as Americans. Like, and again, I have no love for the Iranians, but this meme that the Iranians are like bloodthirsty Islamic dogs. I mean, this current Syrian government is, but to say that about the Iranians at this point in 2025, after decades of them getting their asses kicked and them turning the other cheek, like, come on, give me a fucking break.
You just watched me get Jewed in real time by the New York Times.
Why?
I have to get a paid account to read the updates on the nuclear war.
Give it who cares? Fuck them.
Can this be one thing? Like, I'm just wanting to figure out
out of here
if I need to duck and cover. It's like, what is it called? Create a free. No, I'm not going to do any of this stuff. Guess what? War over.
They're not going to bomb your hometown, Dimes. They're not going to bomb Winnipeg, where you live.
I always thought that was a funny name for a place, Winnipeg.
Yeah, Regina is even better.
Regina. It's like a retarded vagina. That was a bit of a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
There was a big conflict. Speaking of Israel versus Palestine, there was a real humdinger in the chat the other day, and I need to know where you stand on this before we go any further.
Hit me.
By the way, if anything happens with the nuclear war, feel free to throw that up in the chat. We'll get to it. There's some good shit.
Please help! I'm burning, says Mark Trouble. Oh shit!
Oh no. Oh, larger potato. The Israelis just mobilized their entire army. Oh man, we're going to make a real Thanksgiving dinner out of this one, I think. But here, Evergreen Dream on Rumble. Nothing ever happens. Thank you.
Nice.
So I was going to say, boobs or ass? Where you stand?
Boobs or ass? No, I caught a little bit of this. That's
because let me preface this by saying that we had Barry Lyndon, luminary of the chat, saying if you like ass, you're a gay man.
Well, here's the thing. Can we just say for a second? Saying boobs or ass is like saying car or motorcycle or steak or ice cream. And it's like, are we doing an A-B comparison with these?
Indeed.
You know what I mean? I don't. If you got to pick one, this is, you know what it is? This is a woman thing.
if you were trapped on a desert island
Interesting.
and you only had me or your iPhone, which one would you pick? Like, I'm not answering this fucking question.
You reject the
It's
entire
both.
premise.
The answer is
as
fucking both. I'm in charge.
you are in charge. How dare they even prompt you?
Exactly. And thus, I have dodged the question.
Because everyone's got their opinion. Everyone's saying you may place your fingerprint on the discourse there. You're gonna have people saying that boobs are aristocratic, but in fact it's the armpits. You get some weird stuff. You get some guys who are like, no, really, I'm a tummy guy. I've seen that. I've seen a real man say he's a tummy guy.
I'm a shape guy, and if I had to pick, I gotta say ass because it's the larger component of the shape. But if you got one or the other, but not both, it's got to be ass.
Gun to your head.
Yeah.
Is it nuke to the Iran? You're going ass. You know what? I didn't expect that from you.
Really?
And I'm impressed. I don't know.
All right.
Here's the thing.
Impressed that I picked the right answer?
No, I thought you were gonna be like, I'm a silhouette guy. I'm a general outline.
The fetish comes out.
I mean, there's only one wrong answer. I hate to say it, and it's going to be feet. Look, I've met some good guys who have been hit with that affliction, and it says nothing about their professionalism. I understand, but that is the wrong way to be.
And they should be locked up.
I think they know it too. Some guys are like, "Oh, I'm into the nape of the neck." You hear some wild things when guys are talking about this. I'm closer to you. I'm closer, like, okay, full package. Here's the thing. I'm more of what I call a Southern Hemisphere type guy. So to me, you cannot have a discussion about the butt without the hips. It's baffling that you could even just segment it.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you can't, like, what do you mean by ass? We know what you mean, but what do you mean?
Mark Treble says he's a throat man over here. This guy's into gullets.
He's a gullet guy.
He's one of these gullet guys.
I just got called gay in the chat by a man whose name is Tummy Muncher. Give me a fucking break.
Tummy Muncher, he called you gay, motherfucker. he honestly, he got you. We're like, guys. To me, it's like butt, hips, thighs. That's a good trifecta, and they're actually all connected. It makes no sense, like a serial killer might, to segment these parts, and people do that. Actually, one of the bits of Dimes lore that got lost to the sands of time. You can find this on an earlier episode, and I think I might have mentioned it even fairly recently. But I used to work at a sex store when I was in my early 20s in Toronto, which is a lot less interesting than people would think. You think he's got to have some wild stories from that. It's just sex nerds, which are like real nerds, but they think that watching porn makes them cool at sex. And they think if they say that to women, that impresses them. It does, but like the fat anchor tattoo on her bicep type woman does. But yeah, that's one of the items that we sold because I was in the toys section. So there was like fucking vibrators and shit. But then there's fleshlights, and they had for sale, and I sold these one time. They had these like silicone molds of like famous porn stars, right? But just their boobs or just their butt, right? And then it was just in a box. So you just buy a big, like a life-size box with what looked to be severed boobs. There's no other way to describe it.
Right.
It's boobs absent.
That's not even sexual.
What could a person do? Like, there's, honestly, like even at the time in my early 20s, I don't know much about anything, but I'm laughing at that. I'm like, I can't imagine who would do this. Just a pair of severed tits on your bed or wherever, you know, because the guy who buys that, I bet just keeps them around. There's no normal guys buying this, but it's just so funny that they would make that because the sex doll has to be the entirety of the woman, because that's what really men want. Men are into like the entirety of the woman.
Correct.
Guys get dinged for being just dogs about tits or ass, but it has to be the whole thing. That's why men go to strip clubs. And that's why men go strip clubs and women buy vibrators and dildos, because they can just have that appendage. But men, they like the smell, they like the sound, they like the movement, they like some kind of, although it's fake, some kind of experience with the woman. And we understand that it'd be fucking weird if we just bought a woman part and just took it home and kept it in a bag. Anyway, I forgot where I got this. Oh, you were talking about boobs. So yeah, I'm a Southern Hemisphere type of cat, but I like your take. I just this propagandistic. This is subversive.
Thank you.
Good job. That's why we have you on. Speaking of which, you remember in the 80s when boobs used to be pointy? Remember that? Or before that, even like the 60s.
That was a style and fashion.
Yeah.
It was a fashion thing. I don't think like the biology changed that much.
You know, it's not like women just, or maybe they did. I don't know. I never saw a graph.
They had a method of accentuating where like you would have a higher cut, but then you had a point, like a seam in the fabric, which added a point. Yeah.
Did we ever have pointy butt?
What are those?
Like we as
called?
a society.
As a society. In the olden days, this is the fucking late 19th century. What are those called? The bodice? Is it a bodice where they have a little steel cage that the woman wears that hangs off of the back?
Yeah,
that sticks out the back. That was, I mean, that is about as far as you get. That was wild.
Yeah, that was using the most advanced technology at the time to give every woman just a dump truck.
Literally, like
imagine
if they had public transit at that time in history. They didn't, but imagine if they did. No, they had trains though. They did have trains. How do you get on a train? You just wouldn't wear that if you're going to go on a train.
These were the menace. But we never did pointy, is what we're saying.
Well, no, because why the fuck would you do that?
So while we are waiting for the story of Iran and Israel to develop, we were hearing boots on the ground marching across the border.
We'll circle back.
Associated with that is I'm looking at, once again, New York Times video title: "We're experts in fascism. We're leaving the U.S." I guess they're going to Canada.
Nice,
because of course they wouldn't go. Yeah,
thank God. As many fascism experts as we can get.
That'd be great. You know, like when we control academia, the mind reels at all just the bullshit.
Yeah,
degrees and areas of study we can do.
Like we're gonna have like the fascism experts I was expecting.
The one on the left does.
These look, yeah, yeah. You know what? I can see it.
The one in the middle, she looks like she's taking it very seriously. These other guys don't even look like they're taking it seriously.
The one on the left looks like he probably is one of our guys because he looks gay and Jewish.
He's one of our guys because he's gay and Jewish. Got them, got us. But here's the thing: that he's not gonna tell he's Jewish. He looks happy that there's a rise in fascism, which is
only good for business.
Only the white man on the right takes this seriously. Like there's fascists, and something must be done. He's like, oh goody, fascists. Mm-hmm. I get to talk about the Holocaust again. Okay,
and then Juanita in the middle is not really sure why she's here.
Juanita, let's see if we can get a playback speed. What are we thinking? Let's do 1.25. Let's not spend too much time with these people.
Yeah.
I'm a historian of totalitarianism.
I look at fascist rhetoric.
I've been thinking about the sources of the worst kinds of history for a quarter of a century.
The sources of the worst kind of... That just sounds non-academic, a non-serious point, right? Like, I've been thinking a lot about like the people who are on the wrong side of history. Not us. We're on the right side. There's a quote. I should have this pulled up, but I'm going to paraphrase it. There's this meme going around that's just a screenshot of a tweet, and it was something to the tune of liberals don't know anything. They don't read the statistics. They don't go deep in the data. Everything that they know about the world is based on literature that they consume or fiction.
Right.
And I never heard described like that before, but it does seem to be true. And
It also affects their worldview. Like they don't have an attachment to truth, right? Like to them, it seems as though like your personal preference around the way that you interpret truth is something that you're proud of. So like they'll be somebody posted that goofy thing about in the ICE riots that they unironically suggested you should send a lineup of people dressed as the Marvel characters, and this was like a serious point of discussion.
Yeah. Won't they feel silly if they're beating up Captain America? I'm like, you don't understand who you're dealing with here. We would love that. I would love to see the cops break the ribs of Johnny Depp.
Not because it's Captain America,
Jr.
because the person wearing the Captain America costume is clearly a gay nerd, and we love watching gay nerds get beat up.
So, guys, do you guys not remember when we were all clapping and cheering when Hollywood was on fire? That was like 3 weeks ago. Remember? Remember when all of them were about to burn alive, and we said when we learned they didn't all burn alive, we went, oh.
No. You mean some of them made it out? Oh, jeez.
Are you sure? No. What's this guy got to say?
Experts say the constitutional crisis is here now.
The Trump administration deporting hundreds of men without a trial.
A massive purge at the FBI
to make people afraid of speaking out against him.
So for people who are listening, just the audio says they're moving abroad. These three who've studied totalitarianism are fleeing, but also not even recommending that other people do. You'd think that if they were 100% certain that this was going to be Hitler, they would try and save people, and they're not.
Also,
they're
I'm curious, like you're coming to Canada, are you here as like a refugee, or do you have a work permit here, or are you an illegal? Because then maybe we should find these Yale professors in Toronto, of all places, or Ottawa, and round them up.
Getting a job talking about how you fled America, that's it. That's imagine paying 30 grand a year to take that guy's course.
I'm leaving to the University of Toronto because I want to do my work without the fear that I will be punished for my words.
And to me, that's a big signal that he needs to find punishment in Canada. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the shape of that is, but he needs some repercussions for being this annoying and this Jewish.
They're all moving during Pride Month. Is this a coincidence? Probably not.
Let's see with it. Marcy Shore is her name.
The lesson of 1933 is you get out sooner rather than later.
I spent a lot.
I love when they say that because these are people who are Holocaust affirmers. They really believe in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So they're kind of calling every Jew who died in the Holocaust stupid. If you were smart, you would have got, well, the getting was good.
The thing about Jews in 1933, they're just fucking dumb. They're just that, like, this was staring you in the face. We all know how it was going to play out, but you fucking idiots just stayed there.
I detect that subtext when I hear some Jews talking about this. It's like, my family got out, we fled to Italy first, we weren't caught up in all that. And I'm like, oh, do you think the other ones are dumb?
It's a side effect of the whole fabrication of the story, right? Because in order for all of them to have died and yet all of them to still be alive, they have to explain why all of those idiots died. Meanwhile, my whole lineage, none of us.
Recall when we covered the book Night by Eli Wiesel.
Yeah.
It's not on YouTube. Weasel. Yeah, Eli Wiesel. It's not on YouTube. We had to sequester it over on Odyssey because that one really got us a community strike. That one got taken down fast, and you can't get too many strikes on YouTube before you lose your channel. So we reviewed it, and that is the plot of the entire thing. If you trim away all the other strange things about that book, it's a story of a father and a son. It's actually kind of an interesting story from a Jewish perspective of the son chastising and lambasting his father for being so naive about the Nazis. And it was like one generation blaming another generation for being so stupid and lazy. And I guess there's sort of like a call to arms for younger Jews, right? Mm-hmm. But like if that's in that book, I bet that's sort of a little hidden narrative in a lot of these Holocaust discourses about like, the ones who died, that was the wheat separating from the chaff. These guys think they're the wheat.
a lot of time in the last decade trying to prepare people if Trump were elected once, let alone twice.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
I did not flee Trump. But if people are going to leave the United States or leave American universities, there are reasons for that. One thing you can definitely learn from Russians
is that it's essential to set up centers of resistance in place.
It's odd that they cut between them like that. You see what I'm saying? Because you're watching that thing, oh, that's just some dynamic editing. But that's very dishonest what he's saying. Like you actually didn't hear that other guy's reason. It just sounds like he's co-signing whatever this guy's saying.
Unless it was a script that they're all working to, which means it's way less authentic than they want it to seem.
True. Hold on. The fucking video fucked up here. There we go.
Cases of relative safety.
We want to make sure that if there is a political crisis in the U.S., that Americans are organized.
We've just gotten started. You haven't even seen anything yet. It's all just kicking in.
My colleagues and friends, they were walking around and saying, we have checks and balances, so let's inhale, checks and balances, exhale, checks and balances. And I thought, my God, we're like people on the Titanic saying our ship can't sink. We've got the best ship, we've got the strongest ship, we've got the biggest ship, our ship can't sink.
She's the only one that sounds genuinely terrified and, getting
this is why women
choked
shouldn't be in academia.
Using a lot of metaphors. I thought this was 1930s, but now we're on the Titanic, and it's just like the Hindenburg, and like you can tell what she wants to say is Hogwarts, but she can't. But it's like those guys, the whole age gap discourse. I think we talked about this before about what does a 40-year-old man talk to a 20-year-old woman about? I'm like, nigga, they talk about the same shit. It's Harry Potter and Real Lives of Mormon Housewives.
Yeah,
that's it across the board. If you're 65, that's what you talk to them about. Deep down, she just wants to talk about Star Wars.
And what you know as a historian is that there is no such thing as a ship that can't sink.
That's the only... Look, there's actually a lot of lessons you can take from the Titanic. There's a lot of lessons, but I love the idea of reading that, getting deep in the Titanic, getting deep in even the conspiracies about it. I'm like, they thought it couldn't sink, but it turns out it can.
Damn.
Shut up, you fat idiot.
The golden age of America has only just begun.
America has long.
Just to say, it's all just Trump saying great things.
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to get a chill running down my spine when I hear that, when he's just like, we did it. They thought it couldn't happen, but it happened, and it's going to be great. It's a golden age.
You're mad at him for what you think he's going to do, which is what he said. I'm mad at him because I'm certain he's not going to do what he said he's going to do. I wish he would.
We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to some big feelings about Trump in a second, but let's just...
Long had an exceptionalist narrative. Fascism can happen elsewhere, but not here.
But talking about American exception...
Not with that attitude.
...is basically a way to get people to fall into line. If you think that there's this thing out there called America, and it's exceptional, that means that you don't have to do anything. Whatever is happening, it must be freedom. And so then what your definition of freedom is just gets narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed, and soon you're using the word freedom, but what you're talking about is authoritarianism.
Tony Moore.
Authoritarianism is when golden age happens. It's hard for me to say this and not sound like I'm endorsing Trump, because I'm not. But it's also like, these are the people that do believe that anything happens in America means it's democracy.
These fags are the reason that Trump got elected, effectively.
Morrison warned us.
The descent into a final solution is not a jump. It's one step. And then another. And then another.
But then eventually a jump, I assume. It's just like the path towards a series of steps. Like, yeah, but right at the end there's a jump. Like, there's a big thing that happens right at the end. You stupid old biddy. Who's giving all these old biddies microphones?
We are seeing those steps accelerated right now.
Ooh.
There are some words, in Russian in particular, that I feel help us to understand what's happening in the United States, because we now have those phenomena.
What's up with the Russian angle?
This is like the second or third time they've mentioned Russia.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's weird, man. What does Russia have to do with this at all? Aside from that, they're like, this actually starts to feel like a fifth column thing. Even the fact it's like, we're moving to a foreign country so that we can better help organize anti-American, fifth column militias in America. But we can't do that in America because we'll get arrested. So we're going to go to Canada, a socialist country. And let me tell you how Russia did this. Like, whoa, buddy.
It's exciting.
You better buy your tickets soon, bitch.
Who is more of an expert on how not to become Russia than Russians who literally became Russia?
Look at them. They're Russians right now. They can't even stop.
Stop what you're doing. You don't believe me. You're thinking he's talking out of his hat again.
Stand up and look out the window. Look at the Russians.
Literally stand up, look out there, look at Russia. It's right there. It actually is. So it makes me think that they really are pivoting away from Russia, because with everything that's happening, it's easy to forget that there's still a war going on in Ukraine. As far as I know, it's just a drone slaughter, but it actually is a war. And I do detect maybe a pivot away from Russia. Like they're speaking of Russia as something that's not Turbo Hitler. They're saying like, no, they're actually very smart and cunning about this. Like, okay, so that's the signal. We're done with this.
The idea that the powers that be can do anything they want to you, and you have no recourse.
We have that term here too.
Not knowing who is next creates a state of paralysis in society.
The Tufts student whose visa was removed because she co-authored an article in the Tufts student newspaper.
I thought, what would I do if guys in masks tried to grab my student? Would I scream? Would I run away? Would I try to pull the mask off? Would I try to videotape the scene? Would I try to pull the guys off of her? Maybe I would get scared and run away. The truth is, I don't know.
The truth is, she would do the last one. She'd get scared and run away. Or she'd she would record it, then she'd keep it to herself and watch it later.
Not knowing terrified me.
It's a deliberate act of terror. It's not necessary. It's just being done to create a spirit of us and them.
It's an act of terrorific.
I'm curious because that's such a weird clip. I haven't seen that clip, but like nobody got hurt. Like they apprehended her, they stopped her, and they like took her phone or they got her off the phone and then they escorted her somewhere else. Like that doesn't seem like terrorism. Also, there was a woman there.
Yeah. Here's the I implicitly don't care. I'm numb. I'm numb to everything. Here's the thing. Good news, everyone. I'm retarded and I'm dumb as shit. So let's start with that.
Nice.
I'm also dead inside. So there's nothing like you see. Oh,
You're a little bit twisted too, by the way.
Did you know that something happened to a woman? I don't care. Did she? I bet she didn't deserve it, or maybe she did. I actually don't care.
Was she innocent? Oh no, was she innocent? Fuck. Anyways.
Yeah, really. So it's like it's one small step towards totalitarianism. Okay, let's try that. Let's try it. Let's do it. Let's try for a year.
Let's give it a shot. Look, I mean, let's try something new.
It would be great if Trump was that. He's not. We'll get to that in a second.
Exactly.
Продажность. It's a word in Russian for corruption, but it's larger than corruption. It refers to a kind of existential state in which not only everything but everyone can be bought or sold.
Critics are calling this a quid pro quo deal between Adams and President Trump.
I'm committed to buying and owning guns.
He made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million.
There's an expression in Polish. I found myself at the very bottom, and then I heard knocking from below. In Russian, that gets abbreviated to there is no bottom.
I like that. Again, I feel like there must be an English version of that. Just there is no bottom. Like, what would capture that? This is the fourth time we're hearing about some Polish or Russian shit from this woman.
Yeah, I don't know why they. Because what I don't understand is, shouldn't you be taking adages from Germany, if it's or like Italy, like fascist Italy? Why are you taking adages that were created out of communist authoritarianism? I actually don't understand what the game here is. Like, because that is, you say it's the fourth or fifth time and it's all Russian.
I'm trying to get to the part where there's a part near the end where the guy explains what he's trying to do.
Is there a line I wouldn't cross? Is there something I would not do?
People say, oh, the Democrats should be doing more, they should be fixing things. But if you want the Democrats to do things, you have to create the platform for them. You have to create the spectacle, the pageantry, the positive energy, the physical place where they can come to you.
Poland recently went through a shift.
Poland again, you know what I mean? So like, again, you had called this out before. I'm just wondering is this big pole? Is this tent pole at work?
Maybe
Towards
tent pole.
authoritarianism. Unlike in Russia, unlike in Hungary, the media remained a place in Poland where you could criticize the regime. And as a result, democracy returned. The moral of Poland is that our democratic institutions, the media, the university, and the courts are essential.
Nah, you know what? I'm going to dismiss that out of hand. Courts are dumb. Media's dumb. Don't do anything. Israel and Iran shouldn't nuke each other. We should just nuke them all. I'm done. I'm done, Karen. Look at this. I'm done watching that too. This is a buddy of mine named Agnonsis. This is about Trump, by the way. I wanted to echo what you were talking about later. Are you trying to find based and cool ways to justify things that Trump is saying or doing that are fundamentally opposed to your self-professed beliefs? In this thread, I list some classics and invent a few of my own. So he says Bronze Age clubs. I don't know if any of this specifically pertains to Bronze Age pervert or that whole sphere. It might just be a funny thing he's saying. As far as I know, this is just about Trump. They may be saying some of these, a great many of them, including Curtis Yarvin, from what I can see, are Trump administration advocates now, which is kind of ironic. But anyway, here's some examples of what we're talking about. And this just happened today as we're discussing this. Quote, less deportations. Actually, we need illegals because they're slaves who toil for their masters. Us, do you want to pick berries? No, you're an aristocrat. And this is something I've actually heard from that group. I've actually heard Bronze Age perverts say this outright, but I've heard others say too that
this is straight up BAP.
They also cite Saudi Arabia, because I'm gonna just quote some very vague numbers here, but there's something like 80% of Saudi Arabia is just not, if not slaves, then indentured servants or just immigrants that they employ to keep, that the central aristocracy, the House of Saud, employs to keep this machine going. And so there's this argument that I'm hearing now, which is that, well, you don't want to deport all of the farm laborers or the low-skilled workers, the illegal immigrants, because this is explicitly advocating for illegal immigrants because they're the cheap ones. They're the ones working for effectively slave wages. So saying, well, we need them because that's how white people, Europeans, can live the good life. Forget that we've already begun automating that shit anyway. In 5 years, we won't need people for that, really. I mean, that sounds like an ambitious goal, but I think we're on the way to automating away most of the low-skilled labor. Mid to high-skilled labor is a different story, but I think there's actually the most interest in automating the low-skilled labor because, whenever it comes to predicting where technology will go, we tend to be pretty bad at it. By we, I mean everybody. It's easy to just say it's going to be something we can't predict. But I'm like, one way to predict it is to just look at what people are working on. Just like the last guy, those who dwell on the earth, saying that if you just listen to the podcasts about missiles, you can tell where the missiles are going to go.
I want to push back. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, just to finish that, it seems to me that most people, whether they're successful or unsuccessful, are trying the hardest to automate away the low-skilled labor through automation, through picking machines and shit like that. Anyways, continue.
I fundamentally disagree. I'm doing a lot of actual market research in that field, and a vast majority of the investment in automation is specifically in the higher end. It is to automate away extremely high-skilled labor and engineers. And the reason there's very little automation in the low end is because the thing you're replacing doesn't cost very much. So there isn't actually a lot of, and the reason that's important, like driving the immigration question, is when if you're automating away higher paid jobs don't pay as much. Like, people's labor becomes less competitive and they get pushed down into the lower paid jobs, which are currently all occupied by ethnic unions of outsiders. So like, we're going to need low skill jobs for people who can't compete with AI, and they should belong to us. They should not belong to outsiders. Currently, they belong entirely to outsiders because there's this lie. They're like, oh, you're an aristocrat. You're so smart. You can just work as an engineer. No, engineering and programming and management is actually what's getting, if you look at it right now, where the money is and what's being automated, that's what's being automated. Like factory work, for example, high-skilled factory work is being automated, but cotton picking is, I mean, cotton picking is automated, but a lot of things, like the field that I'm working in agriculture right now, is not really automated. It's not nearly as automated as engineering. So like there's things in engineering that are so automated that there's people that work in those industries that don't even know how black box works.
The cost is kept low artificially due to immigration. Let's say there was a full stop put on illegal immigration, all the illegal immigrants are deported, and the wages began to rise. That's what, because that's kind of where I'm getting at, where I think there's some technology trying to get ahead of this by saying like, okay, then we're going to need to pay white people $30 an hour to pick a carrot. Then they'll say, well, we'll just get a machine to do it. And then that happens fast.
That is exactly what we're working on right now. So we're saying, we're looking ahead and saying, look, these guys are leaving. Let's assume that they actually leave. That causes the cost of this labor to go up. And as it goes up, we can pick up the slack with automation. But currently, it's not profitable to automate it because these guys have paid fucking nothing.
No, that's a good point. That's really what I was trying to get at. And I'm not saying this is good or bad either. I'm not on the side of automation. I'm just trying to see where things could be going. Because if we get our wish and that all the illegal immigration's rolled back, all the temporary foreign workers rolled back. We'll get to that in a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But there is no future where I think people are making a living wage farming in this country. That's just, they're not going to allow that to happen, unfortunately. Like you can...
Not with anything that looks like the current economy, no.
Bill Wilson, buck breaking's never been the same since we replaced the boys with machines.
Stick your weenus in the mashing machine. Do it.
There is a McLuhan-esque point to be made about the auto amputation of technology. I'm sure. Like, you think I can't take that and make that into something weird?
Deep cuts. Wow.
You think I can't write an article on that? You're fucking wrong, brother. And also, so what Agnosis is doing is he's saying what the copes are, and the copes are, you believe Trump does one thing, he ends up doing another thing, so you must gin up some reason why it's actually secretly based, or he clandestinely believes what we want him to believe, or maybe he's even taking policy positions from us. So, blind support for Israel. Based, Israel is fighting third world savages, plus who cares? It's all brown people. Sell citizenship for $5 million. Genius plot to convince foolish foreigners to waste money. He'll deport them all eventually for being brown. Like, these are arguments that I heard when Trump was selling his golden ticket. I think that was the actual phrase he used, where, you know, you can buy your way into America, which is, by the way, something that they had for many, many years. Like, it was my understanding that was de facto the way you got into America was if you had $1 million.
I researched this like 10 or 12 years ago, that you can get a visa there if you start a business and invest a certain amount. And it's a lot for us, but it's trivial for those types of people. It's like $2.5 or $3 million in business investment, and then you get a visa. So like, this already exists, dude.
Yeah, if you have $500,000, $1 million liquid, you can pretty much go anywhere. That's always been the case, as far as I know. So yeah, and also just today, I don't have this pulled up in front of me, but he'll probably get to it here in the thread, that Trump was even stepping away from his ambitious goal to deport all the illegal immigrants. He's saying, well, I'm hearing from a lot of farmers that they need that. We know we support our farmers, so we only want to go after the criminals. Uh-oh. Hey, everyone, great news. You want some great news? You're not getting the one thing you thought you'd get.
Yeah.
But then he even stepped back from that. I know, I think Orrin McIntyre had said something to the tune of he's A/B testing stuff. I'm like, no, A/B testing is a bit too strategic for what I'm seeing here. I think he just says something and walks it back when people are mad at him. That's not A/B testing. A/B testing is you try two things in like quick succession, and then you kind of step back and analyze. But it's easy to think... Yeah.
If we say that he's just a buffoon and a liar who will say literally anything to move a crowd and then just does whatever the fuck he wants later and doesn't have to answer for it, we know that he does that because he's already been president for 4 years, and that was his entire term, was that. And we were all mad at him at the end because he didn't do fucking anything. So, and now he's doing it again and people are shocked.
To your earlier point, I wanted to call attention to Nicholas Bauman, makes a good point here. Aerospace level manufacturing automation generally enables fewer people to run more machines, but still needs competent people to run it. And
that is exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. So you take a process there, people are looking and saying, hey, we have an assembly line, we have a production line, and there's this one guy who we are paying $78,000 a year to do a thing with tweezers at a bench. We can make a robot to do that. However, and then like you still have guys in that line. I work on these assembly lines. Like there's loads of people. There's still thousands of people, but there used to be tens of thousands of people. But the thing is, with strawberries, you got literally a block from where I live. You got Guatemalans on their knees in used jeans picking strawberries with calloused fingers. Even though strawberry picking robots exist, somebody else had said that in the comments. There are, in fact, Canada leads the market in strawberry picking robots. I don't know if you know that. We globally are the best engineers.
Can I say this?
Strawberry picking
Ontario makes good strawberries. I don't know if anyone's ever tried these.
Make the strawberries, dude. It's the fucking tits, the ass of strawberries.
It's the lower quadrant of strawberries is what we're trying to say.
Yeah,
we're trying to be right.
But they are all picked by Guatemalans, and it's not because the technology isn't there. The technology is there, and we build it and we export it, and they use our strawberry robots in France because in France they don't have the labor for it apparently, or in Denmark, or not Denmark, the Netherlands. But in Canada, we don't use our own robots. We just use Guatemalans and Puerto Ricans. So
do you think they spray paint them silver? I mean, you would know. You've seen them.
I've seen them. Yeah. No, I got to get a security camera because they fucking drive by my house all the time. I don't trust these fuckers.
Really?
They have school buses. Have you seen them? They got short buses, but they paint them black. They got short buses painted black, and they just cruise around. And you'll see them at the beer store or like at the grocery store where the bus will pull up and they'll go in and get their fucking canned tamales or whatever and then fuck off again.
Can I say it's very on brand for Guatemalans to ride the goth retard bus? I'm staying on the soundboard tonight. I'm not getting off the soundboard.
Nice.
You take a week off, you come back in with week off energy. All right, so we're going to keep going here. Endorses Caitlyn Jenner for governor. 5D chess to trick the troons into supporting the base GOP. Pardons Diddy. The African lion is freed to abuse black rappers. Trump is punishing non-whites. I haven't seen that one, but that does sound like something they would say. Like he's ready to run amok now. National surveillance by Jewish-owned company that destroyed the far. We'll get to this, the Palantir stuff, in a second. More Indian H-1Bs. High caste warrior priest immigrants will subjugate blacks and Mexicans to Aryan Kali. That's what you see, like the high caste Indians. They try this every 2 years, try and convince me that the Sikhs rather, are actually real Aryans and they're based and they walk around with knives. What's going on with that? Look, all my niggas walk around with knives.
You have a foreigner who refuses to speak your language or integrate to your culture, rapes your children, and is allowed to walk around with a weapon when you're not. Like I want a civil war over that alone. I think I hate Sikhs almost more than any group in my region. I'll tell you what, I hate Sikhs more than Jews because I don't deal with Jews. I never fucking see Jews. I see Sikhs fucking daily. I deal with them daily. My hatred for them is so fucking deep. Arrest me now, please.
Holy shit.
Man, he's really fired up.
I'm mad. Dude, I fucking hate them.
I am mad. He had to leave Telegram. Not leave Telegram, but he had to leave some of the chats. He was getting too fired up. This guy walks into a room in a lather. ZD says Jeets took diamonds from the Hebrews. We're going to get to a whole bunch of Indian stuff in a second. But tariffs, nationalism, autarky, America will rise, use Mexican slaves to outproduce China. Remember the Elon Musk thing? We didn't do an episode last week. We certainly would have talked about Trump and Elon Musk having, I would describe it as a tantrum over Twitter. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what happened. The main headline here is that Trump is pushing through the big, beautiful bill, which is just enough. You know what I mean? At some point, just can you talk like a man? Can you talk like a just please? But there was a lot of stipulations and policies and asterisks in there. Musk was not happy with that. They had a falling out, probably unfollowed each other. Broke out the burn book. Elon said something very interesting. He's all fired up, of course, and he says, "Let me tell you why the Epstein files haven't been released. It's because Trump is in them and he's blocking their release." That's what he says publicly. Since been deleted, that tweet has.
Interesting.
But I think that Musk forgot that Trump holds all the leverage in this because he was threatening to repeal the subsidies that are granted to Tesla Motors and SpaceX, and those companies don't survive without those.
Now hold on. Now hold on. So this is a funny one because I've read a lot about this and it's hilarious because Elon was the one pushing ending the subsidies because he's convinced that because Tesla has so much market share that if you end the subsidy, which is for all electric vehicles, it will increase his market share because they already have a moat. The Dragon capsule SpaceX thing is also funny because when Trump threatened that, he's like, fine, I'll just shut down the Dragon capsule now. Like the Dragon program, yes, you are our only client, but we are your only vendor. Without the Dragon capsule, the US literally would have to use fucking Soyuz to send astronauts to the ISS. The American space program is over without SpaceX. There's nobody else. So it's just I agree that it's kayfabe. It's just a bunch of gay shit. But it is funny that Elon brought up the Epstein files and then deleted it because this happened 2 years ago with the ADL. He pushed back so hard on the ADL, and then the whole thing went quiet. And then a week later, he's at the fucking with the Holocaust Memorial or whatever. He had to go to Auschwitz with a bunch of Jewish handlers. Like
I remember that.
Do his rounds. So
an utterly random thing.
Elon's not our guy, and I don't trust him, but he has moments where he tries to go off reservation. Elon is my Kanye, okay? There's moments where I'm like, do it, man. Just fucking blow it up. And then he gets reeled back in. So
Can I just say this? This is the second time you flipped the script on me and, set me straight, and I don't appreciate it.
Wicked.
That's not good. I'm a space guy. I read a lot about
Let me say, Judas has twice this episode very politely said, "Excuse me, let me just explain why you're 180 degrees incorrect on this. You've turned backwards. You got your clothes put on backwards." Hey, so you put your pants on inside out and backwards. I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah.
And your fly is undone. and you're shitting and you're drinking a big gulp of pee-pee. It says pee-pee on the side. Hey, just to let you know, you're drinking a big, huge cup called pee-pee. It smells like piss. I can smell from here. What are we at here? Well over an hour. Jesus Christ. Okay, we get it. We get it. So that is, I know we were talking about Trump earlier. That more or less summarizes my view on Trump, especially this morning when we were seeing him tease that he wasn't very firm on the immigration issue, because what you would be led to believe is that he secretly holds these beliefs, but I don't think he secretly holds these beliefs at all. I think he's actually trying to figure out how to tap dance his way around having to do anything big. I think he's actually trying to figure out what's the least I can do to get people off my back.
I think he's like Carney with the whole nationalism game that went on here a few months ago, where he is peak politician. Like, you got to give him credit, Trump. I mean, that he is an amazing politician. He's an amazing negotiator and presenter, that he can say and actually, he can make you believe that he believes just about anything in order to win an election, which is what he did. But he doesn't believe any of it. I don't know if he fucking believes anything. Like, I don't know what that fucking guy is driven by, but it's not what he says, because he never does anything that he says. Trudeau, as much as I hate him, actually stuck to things that he said. It's just the things that he said were fucking dumb. But Carney going like, we're a nation of French, English, and Irish, and we have to remember our heritage, and then immediately like doubles the immigration cap the minute that he's elected. Like, of course, it's democracy, man.
I just want to say also, there's a comment here from Geek saying that Elon is a ketamine addict. I heard that being thrown around at the time. And I don't want to say too much. I've done ketamine, not recently, but in our early 20s.
Can't imagine being an addict to ketamine.
I can't imagine being an addict. I did not enjoy it. I don't understand people who do. It makes you feel really, it's a tranquilizer. So it makes you feel very heavy and just, have you ever been tranquilized? Have you ever like taken laughing gas?
Maybe we took too much. Maybe you like microdose on it and it just cools you down.
The last thing I want to do would be angrily post. Like I can't connect those two things of being on a tranquilizer.
Like if you're drinking, but you don't get the juice out of it. You just get the sad and the tired out of it.
Yeah, he took a big cup of hangover juice. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's taking some sort of serum.
Yeah.
Right. All these guys are taking serums and elixirs. They're all on, if not adrenochrome, then off-brand adrenochrome.
He's on the Brian Johnson retreat there.
Yeah, just cooking up their own. It's a tall glass of cinnamon water. Like,
I've been drinking my eldest son's semen every morning, and I look like an angel.
Yeah, I've been eating shit. I've been eating fistfuls of shit and baby shit, teenage shit, something else. Like, and they would say this. No, it's frozen. I freeze it. I have this cryo freezer. It's a cylinder. It's a nice tight cylinder, and I put it in there, and
we freeze it. We reprocess it with glyphosate, and that makes it safe.
If it was unhealthy, why could it be frozen? I ask
you. They wouldn't sell this in a bag if it was unsafe.
If it was bad, God wouldn't allow it to be frozen. I'm pretty sure I heard that in a church.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I heard a guy in a cloak say that. I'm pretty sure I heard a guy in a cape say that. Okay, I've been thinking about bringing cowls back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Cowls are great. I think we talk about this
every month.
Apes and cowls and putties and the works. Yeah,
I really want to do this. I can't tell people. You're the only one I can talk to about this. Like starting everyone thinks it's crazy. Everyone thinks, because what we're thinking is, maybe I'm describing it wrong, but it's like a full body cape.
The same thing is like we should bring back horses and swords. Like we should. It should be part of our culture. I'm not saying get rid of phones, but like dudes with swords, and horses are economic. Okay, horses are good, so we should do horses too. Actually,
we can just do all of the stuff.
Bull whips, yeah, lots of shit.
There's a great period in World War I where we had planes, but also horses, and also they're using trapdoors.
That's the stuff. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. Mustard gas, maybe not. There's no blood memory there.
There's a great window of time where World War I was a lot like Game of Thrones. Like you'd never seen Arabs in a war before, and they show up with like poison-tipped blow darts, and they're doing fucking scimitar katas on the battlefield while just mortars are raining down upon them, and it works, and they figured it out. And
it's awesome.
And you don't listen to those because those aren't boomers. That was the boomers' parents. They just didn't talk about all the cool shit they saw. A selfish generation, if there ever was one. Also, here's another thing to be pissed off at Trump about. He seems to be big into Palantir. Everyone, all these guys that we're talking about, hey, here's a bitch. Here's a real fucking ghastly type woman, Laura Loomer.
My least favorite Jew.
I don't care. I would say it again. I don't care if Palantir surveils jihads and legals.
Sorry, okay, it's gonna stop. That is like the most typical Jewish misdirection. Why would you care if Palantir is surveilling your enemy? You dumb bitch, they're surveilling all of us. The whole point to the system is it's a dragnet. You absolute kike. Oh.
Tell us how you really feel. But really, this is what people are saying. Just to summarize the position here, it's that Palantir, which we've discussed on the show before, there's a whole Palantir segment I have, but I might jump ahead. I'll do this in the H1B thing because that's in the title of the gosh darn show. But Palantir, many episodes ago, we're talking about Alex Karp, I believe, is the owner of that. There's a video we'll share of him in a second. But they are working hand in glove with the State Department to process the data of every American citizen. And a lot of people were very upset by this. However, there's a contingent of people online and affiliated, and not directly affiliated, but seemingly affiliated with the State Department, saying that, well, if it's going to be used to deport illegal immigrants, why not? Why not use all the technology at our disposal? Hey, it's run by Peter Thiel. He's a cool, normal guy.
Yeah.
He's a based guy who looks, he was skinny but took Ozempic anyway, so now he just looks fucked up. That's a normal thing to do.
The push with Alex Karp right now, because whoever heard of Alex Karp last year before the election, I'm not saying he wasn't there. I'm not saying he's fake, but whoever heard of this dumb fucking weirdo, this autistic, bizarre freak? Thiel is a name that everybody knows and nobody likes, and Thiel is JD Vance's like mentor.
So
right?
Let me to give people an idea of who we're talking about. We're looking at Guide to Culture Radio, quoting. Here's a little video we're going to share just to refresh people about who we're talking about. We built this, single-handedly stopped the far right in Europe. That was him in 2023. Yeah. So let's just watch this video here.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. Look,
So, some people will say that's taken out of context. I don't think so. I've watched the whole thing. I've watched the whole thing. It's not. But this is the guy you're dealing with. They're boasting about the applications of their technology because they're not, in fact, stuffy data scientists. They're just trying to create white papers. They are far more ambitious, and that they want to impact society. They want to control society in their minds for the better. But it's like, look, we stopped a bad thing. We stopped it. That's what someone who watches a lot of Marvel movies says. Someone who truly believes in the phrase, we're on the right side of history. Yeah. That's who you're dealing with here. So let me just switch back to here. This is Laura Loomer. I'm showing this because she's just repeating a line that I'd seen a lot of people come up with. What I saw was other data scientists and other fucking policy wonks saying that, okay, someone's going to have to explain to me. Someone explain to me why we don't like Palantir. It seems like it's obvious. You don't want this magic thing, a magic thing to do a great thing. That's how these are grown people. These are like women in their 50s and shit saying that. Actually, someone's got to explain it to me. Like, I don't know what you call that. It's not playing dumb, but it's like aggressive naivete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm like, okay, you guys are like the Marvel people. This is the bad company. This is the villain in RoboCop, however you want to fucking phrase it. But just to summarize my position, and I'm sure it's your position as well, America has the technology right now at disposal to not only geolocate every single illegal immigrant in America and deport them. Sweet. Post haste. Yep. We saw with the swiftness of the COVID rollout that they can kind of do whatever the fuck they want all the time.
Yeah.
And they actually don't need to vote on anything. They can just do things if they want to. And they've had the technology. And every so often they reveal that they know the location of every illegal immigrant in Los Angeles.
Yes.
They just don't act on it. So I'm like, it's not for lack of technology. And by the way, has any technology or any policy currently in existence ever been used against our enemies or in favor of something we want, or has it only been used to fuck us in the ass? It seems to me that if we roll out this new technology, it will only be used against us even more. I'm not going to take it on faith that they're going to use it to deport all the legal immigrants when they could be doing it right now. Exactly. And they're not. So then why do it? Who's buying this? It must be someone who's getting money. It must be someone who's getting paid to tweet this shit. Also, they're fucking retards, because only retards are sustained by getting paid for tweets. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all that, I guess?
I essentially agree across the board. It's the same thing I was saying earlier. Like, the system itself is not something that you should want. You should not want your government to have this kind of surveillance. All else being equal, without even looking at the current political situation, why would you even want this? And then when you start asking, what is the motivation? Why do we even need this? And as you say, like, somebody brought up an example. I can't remember the country, but there are countries recent examples, 20, 30 years, where countries with less technology, less money, and more will have deported more people faster, right? Where they have actually just sent the buses and picked people up at gunpoint, shot the ones that ran, and dumped them. And in 9 months, they're gone. It's over. And then there's a big, hullabaloo at the UN, and then people forget about it in a year and a half. So it's just, it has everything to do with will. And will is maybe the wrong way of saying it, because that's like, well, you want to do this, but you're weak. No, you don't even want to do this. And that cuts back to this thing.
I think will is actually the right word.
Anonsys's Twitter points is exactly it, where you want to look at what's actually happening and cope and say, oh, but it's 5D chess. He actually is on our side. He's not on your side. I'm not saying Trump is the most evil president ever. I'm not saying he necessarily hates you personally, but if you're acting like he's the savior of America, he's not. He's just the latest in a long line of Democratic losers who are taking advantage of you. He's not appreciably different from Biden.
Before I forget, Vulpus Persona says we don't need it, but Israel does. And this coincides with something I was reading recently, because you'll notice that the narrative of trying to track down these illegal immigrants was increasing due to accusations of anti-Semitism. That we're supposed, and this goes with the Palestinian protests and whatnot, but anti-Semitism is on the rise. Who's causing it? Well, it's these illegal immigrants, it's these students. So the only reason they seem to have an interest in taking action against these individuals is because they are sufficiently anti-Semitic. That seems to be, and so if you want to know where this Palantir thing is going, because, okay, let me just pull this up. There was, here we go. This is a tweet from Palantir. The recently published article by the New York Times is blatantly untrue. Palantir never collects data to just save your chuckles to the end, but there's weasel words. You can see how many you could find at home. Palantir never collects data to unlawfully surveil Americans, and our Foundry platform employs granular security protections. If the facts were on its side, the New York Times would not have needed to twist the truth. So the key phrase here is unlawfully.
Yeah.
We're not saying you're doing it illegally. I'm saying you're doing it illegally, and everyone should be aghast.
Yes.
It's what you're doing. You're working with the government, and what they said
I'm wondering too whether the New York Times article claimed that Palantir was doing something illegal, because if they were, this wouldn't be a mean tweet. This would be a defamation lawsuit, right? Because they probably didn't claim they were doing it unlawfully. They just claimed they were doing it, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to see. I think Sex Freakman is trying to counter signal me.
I'm a big Sex Freakman fan. Let's hear what he has to say.
I think he's saying, hey, you know what's really difficult to track down without crazy tech? Millions of people. That is a joke, but it's actually not hard to track those people, because what they did was, and they've revealed this. I remember reading these articles that it's not difficult to track their phones. They actually know where they are based on their phones, and it's pretty, like the departments that are in charge of this, like, they're pretty good at tracking. They have a difficult time capturing people. They kind of know where the pathways go. It would be impossible to say that how many illegal immigrants are in the country if they didn't generally know how many there are and where they are and how they're getting in there. So if they wanted to, they could do a fucking dragnet operation and get them all tomorrow, which they do in fits and starts. Anytime you hear, look, they're descending on these places, it's like ICE is showing up. Yeah, well, how do you think they did that so fast? It's because they fucking know. They've always known. They just didn't get the green light to go. Why didn't they get the green light to go? Well, because it's not politically advantageous most of the time. I mean, like we said, look at Trump. He's getting pushback from farmers. He's getting pushback from the business community. So that's why it isn't happening. But you need to decide, like, do you want to piss off the farmers? Do you want to piss off the construction companies? And I can appreciate where he's coming from, but the fact of the matter is they know they could do it if they wanted to.
Right.
They could do it to you right now too. Like they could arrest us all if they want to.
And if the problem is pissing off vested interests like construction companies and farmers, then you don't need Palantir. You need a political solution.
Okay, Sex Rigging. He's not counter-signaling us. He's just being a silly Billy. I was panicking.
Of course, I'm telling you, he's Sex Freakman. He's a good guy.
I need people to like me. Larger potato.
Can I read you a quick Israel headline because you said we're going to update? Quick Israel. Iran's IRGC chief Salami killed in major Israeli attack as war is erupting. And I want to know who's next. Is it prosciutto?
Yeah, I was going to say prosciutto.
Is it gabagool?
Is it General Gabagool?
General Gabagool.
I'm not trying to, see through the stones on this, but if I'm General Gabagool right now, I'm sweating. Bill Wilson says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the military operation will last as many days as it takes. The attack targeted Iran's nuclear program and other military sites, and I assume wherever. Because you're just hitting apartment buildings. They're just hitting cars. They're
hospitals,
just
hitting daycares.
Yeah, we're hitting targets and stuff and things. Just you fucking asshole. It's easy to forget. Look. It's very, very important to establish here at Blood Salad, we're not necessarily anti-genocide. It's just whether or not I like the genocide. Ask me tomorrow.
Right.
But there's no question that what Israel is doing is a genocide. Like it is. You see these fucking photos, and it's just entire towns, villages flattened.
Yeah.
And it's just raped corpses everywhere. And they're like, what did you want us to do? Just not even caring about coming up with a reason. It's like, it was there.
Like, I'm supposed to respect my enemies for doing a genocide because I like genocide. Why can't I just say I want to do a genocide on my enemies and I don't care whether or not they do it as long as I can kill them?
Yeah. It's you go into Gaza, you see a mountain of raped and desecrated corpses. You go to the IDF soldier and he just says, you want I should not? That's it. He says, "You want me not do that? What? Who are you?" Like I get okay. Good point. So this is Palantir saying, "What's the hullabaloo? What are you all freaking out about?" On the contrary, we have WikiLeaks right here. Palantir is engaged in a major expansion of the American surveillance state. Spyware company Palantir is engaged in large-scale data collection on American citizens, having taken on multiple contracts across federal government agencies with large holdings of private information. So they're processing all the information that exists. Why? I assume to detect patterns. That's what all these platforms do. That's what all this software is for. It's to detect patterns. And you would say, well, what patterns would they be interested in detecting? Well, they already said they tried to stamp down the far right. Now, does that mean arrests? Probably not. Does that mean targeted narrative deployment? Probably that. There's a whole list of things they could do to accomplish what their goal is. But what they're doing at present is analyzing data to divine patterns on groups of people. That's the only reason they fucking exist. And then it's up to their partners, being the government, to decide what they want to do about that. And just, I'm going to switch to this here. Looking at Red Team Actual, I don't co-sign or know much about any of these people I'm referencing, but he's saying, I keep seeing this making the rounds. I'll skip all the nerd talk and tell you what the deal means. ICE pretty much plan on giving a no-bid contract to Palantir to build the next-gen ICM, which is the investigative case management system that ICE HSI is currently and actively using. Keep in mind, this bid, it's not open to anyone else. What ICM does is track criminal investigations, human trafficking, cybercrime, and our favorite immigration violations. If you read my other Palantir posts, you know how this works. Now, it makes sense for the .gov ICE to use Palantir for obvious reasons. What they want is a new system to do. What they want this new system to do is combine all law enforcement data into one massive entity called ICE House. ICE wants the new system to be able to support 5,000 users at once and integrate DOJ, CBP, and all biometric databases. Biggest takeaway here is they want this to work on mobile, similar to a mobile field kit. It's more efficient and effective this way, as everything can be done on the fly from anywhere. And the headline here, he's got a screenshot from, where's this from? I don't know. It says ICE advances sole source to deal with Palantir for new surveillance backbone. And you'll have to forgive me that I just don't buy it. I just don't buy that this is only going to be used on illegal immigrants. You know what I mean? Especially
it might be used on Muslim illegal immigrants, but it'll never be used on the illegal immigrants who are actually like the Mexicans, you know, who are supporting the vested interests like the farmers and the factories.
Bulbous Persona also says here, isn't part of the reason for Palantir's existence is FBI and CIA not being able to play nice together. Yep, there it is. 2 for 2.
Yep.
Two good posts right side by side. Bill Wilson, I thought the worst part was the genocide. I disagree. I thought it was the hypocrisy. Evan correctly saying, geez, WikiLeaks is still a thing. Yeah, I mean, I stopped following the case of, the guy who's in charge of WikiLeaks, the white-haired guy?
Jerry Seinfeld?
Jerry Seinfeld was released from his hotel prison, and he's just out there. He's out in the world. I really stopped following up on like Snowden and all those guys. I shouldn't have, but
it's been a long time. And I mean, Snowden was burnt, right? Snowden's kind of a faggot, anyways.
You're not a Snowden head.
I respect what he did, but he's a one-trick pony. Like you don't have any access to. You're just he's like a right-wing Greta Thunberg. Like, why are you still hanging around like a fart, dude? Just leave. You're done. Go get a real job.
I like seeing Greta Thunberg shopping around what type of woman she's going to be. Like she's not environmentalist at all anymore. That was her thing. Yeah. Now she's into Palestine. It's going to be another thing next year. She's doing the Eat, Pray, Love tour, but politically.
Yeah.
Before this, I think she was probably anti-capitalism, maybe. I don't know, but she's wearing a new costume every year. And you know what? Good for her. I'd rather her do this than do OnlyFans. You know what I mean? That's what they're all doing. If this is what every girl does to find herself, is she takes up a bunch of silly causes and then she gets married and goes away. Good.
Can we get Ted's comment up there? Snowden is a true believer in the regime narrative, which is why he flipped on the regime. You know what? 100%. And I think that's what I've been smelling about him for a long time, is when you hear him complain about it, he's like, the things I was doing at the NSA, these aren't the things that we were supposed to do. This is America. We believe in freedom and the right. Like, you faggot. Are you serious? Did you ever think any of this was on your side? And now you're going to make a whole career out of acting hurt and confused and betrayed. Oh, democracy isn't helping me. You little gay boy. Fuck off.
And Mr. C correctly points out, amazing how climate change is no longer an existential threat. Yeah, I mean, we've all kind of noticed that too, but it's only flaring up when there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
The climate change stops existing when George Floyd protests are going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if George Floyd protesters were burning tires, then PETA would be there helping throw it down there.
Yeah, we even think it's true though. Remember 2020 and the number of cities that they burned, and then on the off years, they want to convince us that like cows are producing too much CO2. Never mind the number of future shops or whatever the fuck they have down there were burnt down. The amount of LDPE resin released into the air. Christ.
Evan says luxury belief. Precisely. Also, you want to talk about methane? Then we should be talking about these bitches.
Yeah. There you go.
If I may. Bitches be farting.
Bitch watch.
All right, so we're almost at 2 hours. Characteristically, we have not discussed the main thing that we're going to.
Oh, was there a thing? Did you have something planned?
There was a thing, and it started with this.
Let me just check the title. TFW ecosystem. Is it that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, also Ted LaFar, Putler cured COVID and climate change. Everyone say thank you, Putler. Everyone salute. Thank you, Putler, for solving climate change, and also bringing back George Floyd.
Yeah.
Okay, we're looking at this. Tim Hortons franchise and PEI evicts tenants to make way for temporary foreign workers. I'm sure you've seen stories like this before.
Yep.
So I don't think it's right, says advocate for 3 tenants fighting eviction. One of 3 people fighting eviction notices they received from the local Tim Hortons franchisee in Surrey, PEI, says the company has no legal grounds to make tenants leave their apartment building. Okay, so I guess this is a story of the franchisee receiving something about their apartment. It's not that they're living in a Tim Hortons, right?
Right.
It almost sounds like they're living in a Tim Hortons, but
the franchisee is just an entity that holds a Tim Hortons franchise, which in this case is like a holding company, which also owns apartment buildings.
DP Murphy Inc., which operates a number of Tim Hortons franchises across Prince Edward Island, bought the apartment building at 4 Pleasant Street and issued eviction notices to the tenants, according to documents filed by the company.
Wow.
The Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, PEI's rentals regulator. The company plans to use the building to house temporary foreign workers to address an important business need for our company by ensuring we can properly staff our Tim Hortons restaurants. And so there's a legal dispute about that.
So the implicit claim there is that we cannot
staff the Tim Hortons.
We can't staff the Tim Hortons unless we provide housing for the staff. Sorry, this is not Saudi Arabia yet. Why are you just think about where they would be in the TFW process at that point? Because to me, this is criminal already, because these people are supposed to be able, maybe I'm wrong. I thought these people are supposed to be able to prove that they have lodging and they have a contract and they have everything together before they're brought over. But you're saying the only way we can hire these people is if we provide them housing. So this is that whole slave pipeline that you and I think we're talking about on another show a few months ago, or maybe it was in a documentary, where they bring them in and you work for the company and you live in an apartment rented by the company, and the company's providing your food and housing and the company's providing transportation. You're on a plantation. And as much as I hate slavery because it's inefficient, it's not a moral thing, but that is what this is. And that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't like slavery because I think it comes at too high of a cost.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's just dumb. It doesn't actually work. I would
rather industrial runoff than the descendants of slaves.
Exactly. Get the slaves out of here. We don't want slaves.
Yeah. Housing temporary foreign workers is, quote, essential, they say. PEI is seeing a pressing demand for both workers and housing. No, it's not. That's not true. PEI is actually in trouble because they don't really have a lot of businesses right now. They don't have a lot of employment. There's an employment crisis, as far as I understand, all over the East Coast. It's not that there's so many workers here. No,
also,
you're bringing...
You can't think about that. Go down below first level, saying that you need workers and you need housing. So what you're saying is there are so many people that they don't have places to live, but also there are not enough people for all of the jobs. It doesn't make sense.
Sean Schaefer, Blood Sally coming out against slavery, bold take.
Yeah, dude. We've always
would that I could.
Slaves are the worst. Fuck slaves. I hate slaves.
I'm emotionally pro-slavery. I would love to be pro-slavery, but our current historical period has made real slavery has never been tried.
Real slavery's never been tried. There it is. Yeah.
Real slavery has never been tried. I agree, but to me, it's that our current historical period has made it inefficient. And we can't go back. We can't turn back the clock to the golden era of slavery. The argument is, and I know our good friend, our mutual friend, Christopher Sandbach, has made this argument when it came to the slavery economy in the South, that slavery was already on its way out, that the idea that you could have slaves, the reason slaves picked cotton was because it was the easiest thing to pick. It was more complicated to get a slave to pick a carrot. Cotton is at shoulder height. You can do it while standing up and kind of wandering around. It's very easy to pick. Picking a potato out of the ground is way harder than picking cotton. So that's what you had to get them to do, because everything else was actually way, way less efficient. And so you were actually running out of things you could get slaves to do aside from cotton or tobacco maybe, but there wasn't even that much. So the argument was that, slaves were becoming this human capital that people were just holding, but the market for that was about to crash anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so PEI seeing a pressing demand for both workers and housing when the province's tourism industry began to rebound post-pandemic in the latter part of 2021. Employers in the service industry said they were having a hard time getting workers to come back to their jobs. We're very concerned about possible public dissemination of our business records. So I felt I had no choice but to notify the rental office on this. Oh, that's a quote from a less interesting part. The demand for workers has continued to grow. The province's traditionally high unemployment rate, that's what I'm talking about, reaching a record low of 4.9% last June. PI government launched a new stream of its provincial nominee program. So basically, I'm going to switch over here to a site that we're all going to love, Reddit. This is the thread talking about the article that we were just discussing. And I want to have a look at the comments. Top comment, people think this is unusual. This is all going on all over the Greater Toronto area. Agents, here's what I want to talk about. This was the core of what we're going to get into in this latter half of the episode. Agency guys show up at a business, tell an employer they can cut their payroll in half. The employer says, go for it. They lay off the Canadians and bring in temporary foreign workers and fake student workers paid well below minimum wage. They don't even pay tax in most cases. The agencies have bought boarding houses to accommodate the workers, residential houses with 20 people living in them. It's the ultimate Charles Dickens age exploitation, all legal. You can kind of see where they're saying like this is exploitation of the poor people. And let me be very upfront. I do not care about these people. In fact, in most cases, these agencies are run by whatever that ethnicity is.
By their own people, yeah.
It's not like it's a bunch of white capitalists.
This is like the Gaza thing. It's like, oh, you love the Indians? You love the Gazans? No, I don't. The thing is them doing this hurts us. In this case, them doing this reduces our fucking wages. My kids are never going to be able to get, like, when I was 16, I pumped gas. You can't make I actually paid for shit by pumping gas. You can't even fucking pump gas. Well, they don't. Do they even pump gas? I don't think they do. You could work at a. Anyways, the point is, you can't make money at this anymore. It's not even that they don't pay enough. Obviously, it's driving down wages, but you literally cannot even get the jobs because when these guys get hired in, they are getting paid minimum wage, but then they're getting refunded by the government for the wages. So they're getting actually the nominal, the real wage is less than minimum wage. So like, and now we're all fucking jobless.
Yeah. And this is something I always want to highlight because one of the narratives you'll see when discussing this, it's the real victims are the immigrants, the temporary foreign workers. They're being manipulated by the system or manipulated by white capitalists. And I would always, Gord McGill, when we spoke to him, he's very vocal about this. When you hear about Indian truckers causing all these accidents and, they're on the roads and putting people's lives at risk. You say, what system would allow this to happen? I'll tell you what system. It's the Indian driving schools. So to say that it's just that white people or Canadians are any way involved in this is not true. It's these manipulative fucking Indians who set up their own truck driving schools, just hand wave their guys through, just keep them going, give them a shitty education. They try and just churn out as many as they can, low skilled, graduates of these programs, and then they don't care. They're just making money and lying because these people, they lie as they breathe. They think Indians think lying is the smartest thing in the world. If they can scam you, if they can subvert you, they don't even need to be particularly good at it. They just like lying, and they lie so much. And, if they can get away with it, they think they're smart and you're dumb. So every time an Indian is putting a time bomb on the road, they think they've outsmarted the system and they go, ha ha, to you. So what I wanted to establish was every level of this, you would think it would be populated by the evil capitalists, or that they say, no, it's just fucking Indians. It's these Indians running the agencies that are buying your building, kicking you out. Maybe you've lived there for 30 years. Maybe you're retired. You're on a fixed income. Do you know what that's like? Do you have grandparents who've retired and are on a fixed income and they literally can't find a new place because they've been priced out of that shit?
Yes.
So now they're on the street. Yeah. So now they're getting kicked on the street to put 40 to a room.
Can you even imagine? Think of the white Canadian boomers in business, even who could they even conceive of this? And not just the idea of like, oh, you're going to kick somebody out. No, obviously a landlord can kick somebody out, but the concept of kick somebody out because I'm in bed with an agency and I know so much about the minutiae, sorry, faggot, whatever. I know so much about the details of immigration law.
I think you had it. Who are you getting mad at?
That's fucking the gay fucking design faggot you had on the other day who criticized my pronunciation of minutia. Anyway, fuck him, faggot old man. So the point is, you have somebody who knows so much about the details of our immigration system that they can game it, and they are in bed with all these agencies, and they have friends back in the home country, and they know all of the fucking perfect places to pick slaves. Like, this is not, you can't, if you think about it, there's no way, it's not just that most of them are Indian or most of them are foreigners. They're all foreigners. I don't think a Canadian, even if they were motivated to, could actually do this. I don't think a Canadian is built or educated in a way that would allow them to profitably do this gamut, right? This is 100% foreign. It's a fifth column, dude.
Someone makes a good point here in the Reddit. Hey, good Reddit comment. It says PEI is what, 50 square kilometers, and they somehow have a massive number of Tim's and other fast food franchises that only hire temporary foreign workers. How does that make any sense? Yep. I mean, it's true. There's this, I didn't manage to find it for this episode, but I was watching some video, and I've seen a few of these passed around where, you know, Indians have their castes, their last names are like their castes. And each caste they excel at one industry or one career path in this country. So I even heard a comedian talk about it once. Like, are you a gas station Indian or a motel Indian or a hotel Indian? Because you'll be like everyone in your caste. So they have these conventions, like they're like family reunions, but they're like caste conventions. And it's like everyone there, they own chains of motels or chains of gas stations. And so I think that's what's going on here. So you've got one caste. I think the Patels or the hotel ones, we'll get to them in a second, but there's some lower caste. I guess their thing is fast food restaurants. They got into PEI, and because they're Indian, they don't care about things like ecosystems or markets. They just flood the market. It's like, oh, I'm here. How about I made one work? I'm going to open 50 Subways on the same block. That makes sense to an Indian's mind. Just open. I'm a Subway guy, so I want to open a Subway, one right next to each other if I can. The only reason I won't do that is if someone tells me I legally can't. If you can, then they will. So yeah, it makes sense that, oh, you're an A&W Indian. So I guess we're getting 100 of those in the city because we live in a fake world. Evan says, I mean, there are Probs family reunions. They all marry their cousins. This is true. Larger potato. Everyone knows what the solution is to foreign invasion. This is one thing I had said that, you know, unless the word remigration is on the menu, we're not having a real conversation.
Yep.
And I don't expect, you know, that would be something a political advocate could do in this day and age. Here's one. This is an older story. Not sure what happened in the end, but best of luck to the tenants going against the Murphy Group. As a former Islander, the Murphy Group basically owns all of PEI and could get away with murder. Also, these tenants are in Surrey, which is a super small town in the northeastern part of the island, so getting evicted and finding another place would be brutal. So this is happening in small towns. This is happening in villages.
Yes.
As I mentioned, the Murphy Group are such a large, prominent business organization and have their hands in everything on PEI, much more than just businesses listed on their website. So I also wanted to throw this here just to give a deeper idea of what we're talking about. I'm looking at Statistics Canada, StatCan. This is a report from 2020, but I just wanted to have a look at the temporary foreign workers in Canada. What's the landscape there look like? And I don't know how this would have shifted over time, but we got a graph here. Let's see if I can zoom in here. People can see that. The proportion of temporary foreign workers in selected industries. So crop production seems to be at the top, but that's only around 27%. Private households, so that's just maids.
Wait, what is private households?
I think that to be maids or caregivers. Yeah.
Why?
Nurses,
what?
maybe.
Are you serious? I had no
It would
idea.
have to be.
That's
It would have
wild.
To, it would have to be wealthy family, like what they do in L.A. You hear this all the time. They just have landscapers. They're someone's entire job is just tending to
But
that
like
family.
a family, like a private family, fills out a TFW form. Like, do you have to register as a sole proprietor, as the head of a household, to bring in a fucking TFW to be your personal gardener? And that's 9 point.
You know what I bet it is?
9.8%. 9.8%. How many TFWs are there? There's millions. There's millions of them. So 9.8, say call it 10%. That's 100,000 That's 100,000 Indians that all work as like personal gardeners and cooks and caregivers.
Here's what I think.
Wealthy families.
I think the way they get around it is they are personal care assistants. That's like what they call themselves, and that could include
But like
anything.
with anything, you could hire anybody if you paid a fucking normal Canadian wage. With the unemployment rate is so high, dude. Just hire somebody.
And then you got gasoline stations next at 8%, accommodation and food services 7.2, animal production and aquaculture.
There's engineering, biochemistry, political science, nuclear physics, none of it. There's not a single thing on there which is like the highly competitive bullshit that they always claim in the media. Like, oh, well, we just don't have enough. We don't have enough. This I can't even think.
Let me just say this. Okay, Chuck M makes a point, corrects me. This is not a good day for dimes.
Okay,
I'm having a rough one. He says, no. They're coming as caregivers for their own family.
Yup.
So you've got families over here. They're bringing over their own family members to work as caregivers.
Remember the Polak story that I told? That was what that fucker was doing. And I know from, again, it's just an anecdote, but that guy, his visa, Marek, his fucking visa came from being a caregiver for his sister's daughter, except that she lived in a different city, and actually he worked under the table for my company. Yeah. So, like, of course, this is what they're doing. And that's the polls, and that was 15 years ago.
Sean Weiland just had a few good comments on this episode. It says, accurate estimates are closer to 50 million illegals currently in the USA, and that's not including their children. Yeah, we're looking at the Canadian numbers just to be crystal clear here. But, could we say that there's more illegal immigrants in Canada?
We don't have an illegal problem.
That seems to be an American problem because of the southern border.
The problem with Canadian immigration, I would almost rather have the American problem, because the American problem is largely illegals, where they actually have committed a crime by coming in without a visa. You can get rid of them. The problem up here is 100% of them are legal, and if we want to get rid of them, we're gonna have to fight them.
Yeah, or if I'm being optimistic, I would say that if you just turn the welfare spigot off, I think a good number of them go away. Now, what percentage would just self-deport? I can't say. I want to say 60%. I actually think a lot of them are only here because they're kept here financially. If you just turn that off, many of them go away. And I think even if those numbers shrink significantly, you can kind of scare the rest off.
Let's use Murphy as an example, right? This company that is like knocking over hotels and kicking people out. How much you want to bet most of the people at Murphy are themselves Indian? And then the franchisees are Indian, and the managers at the Tim Hortons are Indians. Okay, so they lose their federal funding. All right, that definitely dings them. But at the end of the day, they are an economy unto themselves at this point. Like, when I say fifth column, I'm not blowing smoke. They actually are an economy unto themselves. They have entire business and supply chains, which are 100% them. I work in the manufacturing and electronics industry, and there are whole supply chains, whole companies, top to bottom, management, middle management, floor staff, all Indian. And if the guys on the bottom who are TFWs lost their TFW status, they would be backed up by the millionaire upper management, Patels. So
I guess that's a good point.
There's no legal way through this. It doesn't matter how conservative a government we get. These people, we've let them in, and they've put down roots. It's fucking kudzu now.
That's a good thing you said that, because that does. I don't want to contradict what I said earlier, which is that there are conglomerates and agencies and money back in this. And the way it works, and we'll probably get to this in just a little bit. These people, we discussed this with the Chinese as well. They have their own banks, they have their own pipelines that they use to get to Canada. And the story is for most of these young Indian men, when they land in Canada, they already have the support of their caste, of their clan to get them started. And they have their own banks, they have their own little pathways to do whatever it is. So it's when you hear these stories, or when boomers do it, or liberals hear these stories, they're imagining them as a white person. And unfortunately, many young white people, white men especially, have the lived experience of being tossed out on their ass. That's what happened to us, actually. We were just kicked out. I was kicked out of the house. And a lot of people are. Very few white men
opposite.
are either financially or even, psychologically supported by their parents. And I think that's just maybe a generational thing. Like I think boomers and Gen X maybe.
You and I were both kicked out at like 17 and backed each other up, but neither from 17, you and I were living in a foreign city, backing each other up for 10 fucking years before we ever
So for a lot of young people, they're like, oh man, if I don't make it on my own, I'm on the street. But it's never the case that any of these people have to ever fear that. So when liberals or other white people say that's like, oh my God, they must be scared and alone. No, you don't understand. They're not alone. They're plugged into an ethnic matrix that you, as an atomized, likely deracinated European, don't have, because that's our culture. We push people out of the nest and want them to succeed on their own. I know fucking Sean Weiland's going to be in the chat countering that, but I don't want to hear it, Sean. He's going to go off on millennials or something. I'm looking at the Globe and Mail right now for those who are listening to the audio version of this. Headline: Ontario investigating recruiter in Alberta who helps supply low-wage foreign workers to Canadian tire stores. Like, remember when that fucking bitch was that in Canada where that Indian woman just baked herself to death?
I think that was the East Coast too. It was either PEI or Nova Scotia where that happened.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't laugh. You shouldn't laugh at these final destination stories that you hear, but it's like you never heard of just the fattest dunce you've ever seen in your entire life doing that. Whites have good dunces, maybe the best.
Yeah,
like I would take a white with Down syndrome over a Indian doctor any day of the week. More charm, more pizzazz, joie de vivre coming out the ears. Good people. You've never seen an Indian professional with joie de vivre. I dare you to even lie about it. All right, going on here. Ontario's Ministry of Labour is investigating the Alberta-based recruiter who's involved in bringing scores of temporary foreign workers to staff low-wage jobs at Canadian tires across Canada. A ministry spokesperson told the Globe and Mail in an email that's conducting an open investigation into Allison Jones, the owner of a recruiting agency and an immigration consultant agency in St. Albert outside of Edmonton. Miss Jones is a popular recruiter among franchisees of the Canadian Tire and Tim Hortons chains, helping franchise owners fill low-wage positions. So here, I would need to look her up. I wonder what she looks like. The distinction between Miss Jones's companies is critical. What? As the owner of a recruiting agency and an immigration consultancy. Oh, so she does job recruitment and immigration consultancy. Interesting. Interesting. And this is what I wanted to establish just a second ago, that you are correct when you say that, when I say turn off the welfare spigot, I think maybe not the entire pie is going away, right? A percentage will go, but like you'd said, these people are plugged into sort of an ethnic support matrix. So you need to account for the banks. You need to account for the Patels, the money that gets them over here. Yeah. Now, there's some stories about people like in Mexico. I saved up my life savings to come over here and I was scammed. Those seem to be few and far between.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot of Indians having that story about I paid to come here and I'm poor and I'm on the street.
Those are like the examples of Mexican like children being separated from their mothers. Like, yeah, it happens, but it's maybe 0.5%, or like of abortions being due to rape. Like, yeah, that sucks, right? But it's 0.5%. And also I don't care.
Oh, Chuck M says, just in reference to that oven story, the same month 2 others died in walk-in freezers. Working around Indians is like working in The Sims.
It's crazy, man.
sometimes the game lags a bit and they're just in a room. They just don't leave the shower. They just don't leave the shower for 3 days. You're like, I need to install cheat codes to fix these NPCs. Sex Freak Man, it's just really hard to make India look like a worse option than Canada. Yeah. So this woman runs immigration consulting, and this is what I was saying, that there's entire pipelines, and there's certainly some white people involved, but it's not as like, why are they still here? All you hear every day is that there's not enough jobs for Indians. Okay, then how are they here? Think about it. Like, there's no jobs for anybody here. Certainly not most of these Indians. Some of them are working retail, but I'm like, how are they surviving? Well, they're living 5 to a room, of course, but there is money changing hands here. There's support systems that are actually just keeping them here no matter what. So yeah, there must be some solution. You know, we were talking about this in our community the other day. People get very excited when they hear the likes of Pierre Poilievre or American Congress people talk about, maybe even they mention remigration or putting an immediate halt on migration. And it's important, you know, do we want to counter signal that? Do we want to be a wet blanket on that? Hey, look, they're making our arguments. They're parroting our points. That's all well and good, isn't it? Be that as it may, let's put their agendas to the side. My sense is that they might very well mean it. The music may have stopped on this sick and twisted game of musical chairs called immigration. They can no longer ignore the data points that we've been talking about for Christ, I don't know, half a century, really. But it's actually too late. If your regulars and normals, your shit libs, are agreeing with you, it's too late. We've crossed the Rubicon. Yeah. It's 20 years too late by this point. If it's become unignorable to the most idiotic drones that you know, that is the negative interpretation of this. So we can talk about getting rid of Indians. Well, there actually is no getting rid of them unless you take an active role. And my argument was that despite these people agreeing with our premises, they will not go with us with what needs to be done.
Right.
And just to clarify, what needs to be done is going to be something far more active.
Or let's say this, in the same way that it took them 20 years to realize what you knew 20 years ago, they will only agree with you about what needs to be done 20 years after it needs to be done. It needs to be done 5 years ago, and we need to start today. And hopefully 10 years from now it's done. And then 5 years after that, they finally agree that it was.
Sorry, I think you might have cut out there just a little
But yeah,
bit.
you're never going to get these
hear me?
people to agree with you.
Can you?
Yeah, I
hear
got
me? Okay, good, perfect.
I can hear you. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Let me just throw to this, because I know we got to get going soonish. This is what we were referencing before. I'm looking at a wealthz.substack.com. Again, don't know too much about, but this is something we've brought up before on the show. Motel Empire, how Patel families transformed the American roadside. This is the Patel Hotel Cartel. I'm sure some people have heard about this. The story of Patel Motels is a tale of migration, community, and entrepreneurial success that reshaped the hospitality industry in America. It begins with the journey of Indian immigrants, specifically those from the Patel community. Time was that you would say the Patel community to people like, what do you mean? The Patel family? No, you don't. No, it's not family. Well, it is. It's a genetic community. Wait a minute. What do you mean genetic community? Like a caste? Was a caste like a class? Because that's what, when people hear caste, they think of it in sort of Western anti-capitalist terms. They think of class. Like, oh, you're just like a lower strata of society that you're not allowed to leave. It's like, no, it's like if a class was a big genetic family. And that's really hard for people to wrap their heads around. So the Patel community, what does that even fucking mean to most people, right?
It's a giant clan.
Yeah. And their incredible rise to dominance. So I'm not going to go through their entire fucking history. But just to give people a shotgun blast here, the success of Patel Motels wasn't just about owning businesses. It was about building generational wealth. As families grew, children often helped in their family business, learning the ropes at a young age. Many of these children would go on to earn degrees in business and other fields, bringing even more expertise to the family operations. In 1989, the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, the AAHOA, was formed primarily driven by Indian American motel owners, many of them Patels. It became a significant force in the hospitality industry, advocating for the rights and interests of Indian American hoteliers. The association helped address issues such as discrimination faced by Indian motel owners. Discrimination such as, why does this place stink? Why are you bad at this? Why does it seem like you're doing the bare minimum to avoid this place falling down? I've heard the contrary. I've heard people say, no, Indians know hospitality. They know how to take care of people. What planet do you live on? Have you, like, look at their food. Look at how you live. Bitch, you live like this? While the success of Patel Motels is impressive, it wasn't without challenges. Don't care. The legacy today, here we go. Today, Patels own over 22,000 hotels and motels across the United States, a staggering 40% of the hotel and motel industry. Let that sink in. I've heard it as high as like 50. These numbers keep shifting. I don't. It's hard to get a read.
This is not federal subsidy. This is not handout. This is an actual resource that they own outright. And no amount of illegal, because this is the States, right? No amount of deporting illegals is going to fix this problem.
Yeah, and here's Sean Weiland makes a good point. Here in America,
the way you fix that is a war. It's a war, but the solution to that is a war. Sorry.
Here's Sean. That's how they buy up all the gas stations, tobacco shops, convenience stores, etc. And I think that's another thing. Again, if you view this from the atomized, just white guy perspective, you're like, these guys just must work harder, scrape it all together. You know, that's how I would do it. I was taught that. I was taught you work hard and you save. Work hard, save, take your savings, and get something better. No, and then one day you learn that no one does that. No rich person does that. Certainly not the Indians, who are just, if you look at them, you look at most of these immigrants, they're so deep in debt. They're just used to living in debt. They're used to living 22 a room. They own 5 gas stations, but they make 20 grand a year and they live like shit and they eat just fucking slurry and rice for every meal. But that's how they live. That's not how you want to live, but that's how they do it. And that's how they fucking take over. So this remarkable achievement has made the Patel surname synonymous with hospitality in America. Maybe not for the best reasons. And that's really mostly what I want to talk about. And actually, maybe we could end on this really quickly. This is the Toronto Star we're looking at here. Opinion page, move over housing. Young Canadians are facing another crisis, and no one's trying to fix it. This is from May 20th of this year. Shocking unemployment numbers is what we're talking about. Shocking unemployment numbers among the young is the next crisis we're ignoring, writes Sabrina Mado. It's like a sensual name. Maybe it's just because it's French. I imagine her with red lipstick and sort of like a bodice. You know what I mean? Like a lot of. I'm thinking like black lace. That's what I'm imagining. But black lace and black clothes generally have been ruined by fat women. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I hope that's not what we're dealing with. Let's see if you can tell if Fat Fingers typed this. For nearly a decade, young Canadians have been drowning in a sea of economic pain. Statistics Canada's April 2025 labor force survey is nothing short of disastrous for young people. The national unemployment rate for 15 to 24-year-olds increased to 14.1%, the highest mark in over 20 years outside the pandemic. In Ontario, unemployment for this age group is 16%. So just to circle back to the start, when you hear that there is a housing crisis for new workers or there is a desperate plea for new workers, you're reading these stories in parallel to these other stories by saying unemployment's at shocking heights, and you're hearing stories of people, Canadians going down to the Tim Hortons looking for a job. People are looking for these jobs.
They're not hiring.
There's young white men who would go work on a farm if they weren't boxed out.
It's insulting. It's insulting that they say that we're not, because we are. Because I've been there and looked, and I know a lot of guys who are looking. That we would. I mean.
I'm just going to say this, and people can disagree with me all they want, but just based on what I've seen in my life, there's a lot of young guys that would work minimum wage at these jobs. The problem is that you're not paying minimum wage. You're paying below minimum wage to these other people. If you just paid minimum
wage.
Guys
are desperate. It is bad out here. I understand how bad it is up here. Guys are literally desperate for work up here.
Yeah, and some farm construction, they would actually do it. You just got to pay the minimum, not pay $5 a day to something, and just trying to and being unable to make your business work without that. And that might sound harsh. I don't run a construction firm. I've worked in construction for a while when I was younger, so I know a thing or two about it. But my sense is that if you can't make your business operate without slaves, I just don't think you're that good at running a business. I'm sorry. I think like if you're illegal immigrants get deported, like I don't know how to do. What am I supposed to do? Like you've built your business on slaves, and you don't sound like a good manager. You don't sound like a good owner. Now that's what do you think about that? Is that going too far?
I caught most.
Sorry, Judas is cutting out for me. I don't know if he's cutting out for anyone else.
I think my internet.
All right, so I think Judas is starting to cut out. Maybe we're well over.
I don't know if you can hear me. I'm losing my connection.
Oh, it's okay. Judas is losing his connection right now. He's kind of popping in and out. I think we need to probably wrap this up anyway, because this is what we wanted to talk about, which was the ecosystem of temporary foreign workers, which was this machine that is driving this, and do not accept the narrative that it's just versions of yourself, the lonely hard worker trying to make it in the world. They have access to an entire infrastructure that you don't have access to, and it's layers, it's stacked layers of support systems. It is, as we said before, the truck driver on the road, the Mississauga missile, someone had said there. Great way to phrase it. But it's also the same group of people who own the driving schools, and it's the same group of people who run the staffing agencies, and it's the same group of people who own the immigration law firms that are bringing them over. It's one conduit coming from. So it's no one in this is a victim. That's important to know. And as Judas correctly pointed out, and as others have pointed out, it's not just a pool of workers. And because it's not just a pool of workers, this thing needs to be ripped out by the roots. That if all these jobs, they don't seem to be terribly bothered that there's not a lot of jobs, or the money finds its way into these people's pockets somehow. That's the machine that you're dealing with. That's the machine that must be contended with. I'm just looking at some of the comments here in the chat. Bill Wilson, the real skilled migration we need is French maids. Couldn't agree more. A larger potato. The best thing about foreigners owning things in your country is that you can just take their stuff when you kick them out of your country. True. Eskimo 56, they also scam each other nonstop with their shitty new immigrant loans. Absolutely. Yep, I think that's about it. That's all that we need to get to today. Juice, are you back? Can you hear any of that? Or
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I everything that I heard, I agree with. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to what I want to talk about. There's a lot of stories out there. There's a lot of other cases like this, but I think this was just the worst overreach I've seen, where the same machine that we just discussed is going to buy up your apartment building, maybe your multifamily dwelling, where people have lived there, especially seniors, and they're relying on that fixed income, or that maybe it's co-op housing.
Yep.
They don't care. They don't care that you're in a village. They don't care that you're in a small town. Yep. This isn't just an urban thing anymore. I just want to get that across to people. They think it's funny. They think it's funny to kick you out, because they also think it's funny to scam you. They think they're smart. They think they're smart when they kick your grandmother out of her building. She should have been smarter. She should have been scamming them. Because your poor grandmother wasn't scamming Indians, they think she deserves everything that she fucking gets. And that's the mindset you need to have when you're looking at this problem. Anyway, sorry, Vulpus Persona says that's Juice in the corner, losing his connection. And I don't know if he can do it. That is REM. That's me in the corner. All right. Also, Justin D, fair enough, Tim Hortons should have died a decade ago. It is one of our more confounding restaurants.
Yeah.
if you I've said this before, but myself and my wife have at various capacities worked with Tim Hortons at a corporate level. They're not run like any restaurant group you've ever seen, if you can imagine how they operate. In short, they don't do focus testing. They just brainstorm products and roll them out immediately. And just the focus group testing is just launching it and seeing if it works. But there's less planning than you would think in everything, which is why if you look at the restaurants, they're more stripped down than a Subway. And Subways are famous for how low investment they are to open.
Yeah.
But if you look at a Tim Hortons, it's like they got a fucking panini press, and that's about a panini press in a microwave and a surprisingly small oven, and that's
everything in the back room is being reheated. It's coming in from somewhere else. It's offloaded in the morning from a truck.
I worked in a Tim Hortons. I forgot that. Yeah, they just had they had air fryers. That was it.
I think we both worked in the same Tim Hortons.
we both got fired from the same Tim Hortons. we have lived such stupid lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had we didn't have a term for it at the time. We didn't know what they were called, but they were air fryers. But they were made by Tim Hortons. They were proprietary air fryers. And you would just take the frozen Timbits, donuts, whatever, put in the air fryer a minute, and they come out hot. But that was the technology that they had. They're not baking anything. Any idiot can run a Tim Hortons.
Mm-hmm.
But just to end it, I would say I do admire the network. I wish we had that for ourselves. I wish we had, like, if what they have is a system of financing to give like 25-year-old guys the upfront capital to buy or open up, mostly buy these kind of mid-level gas stations. First of all, I'd love it if there was guys who wanted to do that. And then secondly, I wish there was more financing for that. It's not sexy. You're not going to get a very big ROI, but it's not a negative ROI. You're not losing money on it. It's just, opening up corner stores. You make a very small return, but if you open up a bunch of them, you can be okay. I wish we had that network for us. And we did. Maybe we did. That's what fucking banks were. That's what they used to do. Right. But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. But it's just imagine what could be accomplished if we had both poles of that set up for guys who just want to own a bunch of shitty motels, but do it right. Don't run it like Indians do it. But then also, I don't know, the financiers to do it and to take care of people because they just believe it's in their ethnic self-interest to do it. Because underneath all of this, that's the only reason they're doing this. It's caste-based self-interest.
It's almost like a religion. It's another motivating factor beyond just, oh, I'm going to go to the Bahamas this summer. Like, no, this is a long-term project that you are personally, emotionally, spiritually invested in, is the success of this larger group. And if I have one major critique of Western culture as it stands, North American culture, it's this atomization, not just general atomization, but the atomization of like me personally and my personal gratification in the near term is the only thing that I care about in the long term. Like, no, you have a project and maybe it's your kids and like, that's okay, I guess, but it should be your town. It should be your people. So
yeah, this is Mitchy Peachy. I got fired from a Jewish bagel shop once. Maybe that's something we all have in common. I did work for a bagel place too, and that didn't work out very well either. We've had so many jobs.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Some people.
We also worked at a fancy diner that was owned by Arabs. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where a lot of celebrities went there, and we were working in the back kitchen. And I know I think I quit. I didn't get fired. I quit. Did you quit or get fired?
I quit.
You quit. We both quit. Fuck that place.
I fought for a raise, and then the boss was very upset at me for doing that. But then I got the raise, and I left like 2 weeks later.
We have a long history of actually both working in the same place, and then either getting fired or quitting.
Surprisingly, when you actually tally it up, yeah.
At least
and then
4 or 5 places. Yeah.
Worked in construction. I worked in a garbage recycling plant for like a hot minute, doing landscaping.
My favorite was when my dad, who was a warehouse manager, hired both of us, but fired me.
I know, and I was there for a while.
And
after.
he's like, remember Dimes? Yeah, you still friends with him? Yeah, he was a good guy. Like, fuck you.
Yeah, we were just him and me. Me and Juice were loaders. Just it was a staging company,
loading trucks, yeah.
For sound equipment for concerts and conferences and shows. So we were just the truck guys, loading and unloading. And I did a couple of jobs where I was setting up in like the Air Canada Center, I think at one point, just one of those fucking conferences, right? That takes 1,000 people, and you show up and it's just chaos. And there's guys with clipboards and headsets, and they're pointing, and you're just there in your black cargo pants saying like, I need someone to tell me what to do. And they're kind of annoyed. I'm like, I'm getting paid. I'm invoicing no matter what. Do you want me to do something? Yeah, just go talk to Phil. Who's Phil? He's what? Yeah, just hold on a second. And you're like, okay, my next mission is to find Phil. I need to look, and it's just every guys who look like you, guys always going on to a smoke break or just off of a smoke break.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking busy. I love that. My favorite thing about working in a blue collar jobs is looking busy. The trick was always walking around with like a broom looking pissed off, and then no one bugs you. It's like prison. Everything's dealt with like cigarettes, and you're like looking at people's tattoos and shit. This guy, this guy's Dimes guy wears more hats than Elon. Yeah, I mean, our 20s were pretty hilarious. And then I got into working in kitchens because I went to chef school, and then I was working in restaurants and kitchens for quite some time. But again, prior to that, working in warehouses, stock rooms, a lot of shitty, ridiculous jobs. The sex store, like I said, other retail places,
sales.
You say, we were door-to-door salesmen. Both of us.
That was another one. We were both door-to-door salesmen.
You were my boss.
I was your boss. I was your team leader.
Juice was my boss. He got me hired on his team, and he was the coolest boss. I love
These
that.
These are the worst. I hated all this, man. I'm so glad it's over.
This is what I was joking. I'm like, we've lived such a stupid life. I love it, though. I wouldn't trade this for the world. But it is funny telling it to people who aren't us, who aren't used to it. But yeah, we would, you and me in our like shitty car driving out to small towns, trying to convince stay-at-home moms to buy shit, trying to lock in their gas bills.
Yeah.
In our $100 suits. And our clipboards with too many papers on them, all these newspaper clippings that are supposed to help, and no one's. And the entire time they're selling us, because that's how these MLM schemes work. Because you're the subject, you're the one they're trying to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you convince others, but in a way, like you're the first mark.
Yes.
And you're working around people who just got in the country 5 minutes ago.
Well, I think we were like 18. We were definitely the youngest people on the crew. So. Yeah,
that was so funny. That's a good age to do that. A good age when we were like late teens, fresh in the city, because you're like, I get to wear a suit. I'm in sales, and you hear stories like the guy who runs this. Can I just say this before we go? This was such a great reveal that the guy who ran our, what do you call it, company office.
Yeah.
He would tell stories about, I used to be like you, and now I live in this nice place. I live in the city. I got a pool, and wow, pool. Then you were the one who had like gone to his place, and he's like living out of a motel or some shit or some shitty building, and it's just one of those shared pools with a chain link fence around it.
Yeah.
And trash in it, but he
drove like a beat up beige Camry.
Yeah. I love that. I love a good lie. He was a black guy, dude. I love a black lie. A black lie about prestige. It's great. I've seen like cab drivers with their own business card, fucking Hustle Boys Entertainment, written in like shiny gold ink. Love it. I love all that shit. I love broke black millionaires. I love guys who think everything they do is a hustle. Every hobby is a hustle.
He's a trick, man. He's a trick. You gotta check the coupons. You gotta check the flyers at No Frills, man. Because No Frills don't have a Food Basics gonna have it. You gotta go drive to No Frills, then you drive to Food Basics. You're gonna save $4. Fuck, man. It's a hustle.
baby.
Nah, man, that's called.
How
that's
can you
called
philosophize unless you hypnotize? You feel me? How can you philosophize without analyze? I'll give you that one for free. Just a guy wearing just regular clothes, but one giant pimp hat. Just can only afford 10% of the fucking Saints Row outfit. Oh man! All right,
good one.
I think some people got let out of another stream, so they're coming in here now. Hearing us talk shit.
Go.
Okay, gotta let you go. We've been gone. Thank you so much, everyone.